This feudal lord is highly scientific. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51 High-end combat power is also the primary productive force. A small to medium-sized paper mill covering several hundred square meters was built. As for the roof, it was simpler. Aofu used the same method again to make a factory with an alien style. I can only do this step. You still need to ask architect to engrave secret words such as sturdy and ventilated, and ask secret master to carve protective barriers and hidden barriers, etc. Aofu once again gave professional advice. As expected of Mr. Aofu, there should be no professions like architect and secret master in Parrot City. It seems that I have to go to other cities in the noble territories to ask, and it can only be after Lin Ke's father comes back. However, Lin Ke suddenly had an idea after hearing this. Teacher, do you know if there is a book like professional encyclopedia? It records the characteristics of each professional and what they can do. Aofu was stunned. How could there be such a magical thing? Seeing this, Lin Ke just kept a watchful eye, but did not continue to ask, but said again, Teacher, then I will start researching about paper. Aofu praised. Okay, if you really create better paper, such feedback will be enough to increase your upper limit by 4 or 5 levels. The scholar profession is to constantly learn and do research, and then get feedback from some successful learning and research, so that you can be free from shackles. For example, the knowledge that Lin Ke usually learns from Aofu, including the common language of Nasang, history, politics, etc., can get some trace feedback. Let him meditate and accumulate all the way, without the bottleneck of level 1 or 2. Without the bottleneck, as long as the professional energy is enough, he can upgrade. For example, Aofu has been stuck at the bottleneck of level 19 for a long time, but some small experiments can't get him enough feedback. The most important thing for his profession, truth researcher, is to research, and it is better to research the truth. As a result, even his part-time enlightenment teacher has reached level 11, and truth researcher has not yet broken through to level 20. There are too few insights. For Lin Ke, researching and inventing paper can benefit scholars. When paper is invented, maybe Lin Ke can use it to become an inventor in the future with the lucky bloodline. By the way, Lin Ke, what profession do you want to be in after this? If you want to be a truth researcher, you need to join the school I belong to. Aofu and Lin Ke walked slowly by the river and then chatted. No, teacher, I don't want to join a school. I like more diverse ideas. Lin Ke shook his head slowly and refused directly. Teacher, if you only follow one logic and idea for a long time, you will lose more possibilities. Even if it is idealism, I think there are certain things that can be learned from it. Aofu immediately thought of some idealistic ideas that Lin Ke had told him before. However, Aofu knew that Lin Ke would definitely not be as extreme as those people. Well, your point of view is very interesting. Aofu began to think about Lin Ke's words. Lin Ke took the opportunity to say a sentence he had heard in his previous life. Teacher, the only truth in the world is that there is no truth in the world. The process of scientific pursuit of truth is nothing more than infinitely approaching the truth. The essence of science is not gravity, not relativity, not this or that theory. The essence of science is a set of effective and logical thinking systems. Scientists use this thinking system to prove or disprove the truth and explore the real truth. This is science. Just like scientists once thought that the solar system revolved and rotated like a plane, but later they found that the solar system was actually moving forward. Now they think it is moving forward, but maybe they will find out later that the solar system is actually revolving around an unknown celestial body. Therefore, never think that you have mastered and controlled all the truth. Most people cannot master it, only a few people can access it, and then a very small number of them can master part of the truth. When Aofu heard Lin Ke's words, he was stunned. He stood firmly on the ground, leaning on his thunder staff, muttering to himself, the only truth is, there is no truth. Lin Ke thought that AOF was asking him what he meant by this sentence, so he expressed his understanding. Like the magicians in the past, they all thought that people with earth element talents should learn earth magic and absorb earth element. Lin Ke pointed to the paper mill over there and said, but now, everyone knows that professionals are a more comprehensive and excellent system, and in the future, perhaps there will be a new system to overthrow the current professional system, right? Everyone used to think that we lived on a flat and huge land, but now we know that we live on a ball, right? Lin Ke looked at his teacher expectantly. Teacher, you think that materialists are the ones who master, or can master the truth, but have you ever thought about why idealists have the same idea as you materialists? Do you think that only idealists can access the truth? And you are all very powerful, very smart and wise. Sometimes, understanding and absorbing other completely different or even opposing ideas may spark good sparks. After Lin Ke finished speaking, he also stood there, waiting for AOF to think. He actually hoped that AOF could break through level 20, the reserve for legends. After level 20, it would be better if he could break through to level 21 and become a legend. Of course, this was just a thought. At least 99.9999% of people could not break through this shackles, and the feedback required was too huge. Just like those cultivators who need to perceive to become immortals, sufficient perception can support them to break through the shackles. For example, if Scholar does not change his job until level 20, it is not enough to break through the shackles of level 21 with the feedback of 1 or 2 small studies. Lin Ke actually has many experimental methods that can be provided to AOF, but he cannot explain the source of them, so he can only do it step by step, just like distillation requires glass. The lucky blood in Lin Ke's mind suddenly lit up. He didn't see it, but he suddenly saw some wandering electric light rising from AOF's body. If it was in ancient times, the teacher must be a powerful lightning magician. Lin Ke couldn't help but think. However, at this time, several fine electric lights suddenly drew scorch marks on the ground. Lin Ke was startled and dodged immediately, standing nearly 4 or 5 meters away from Aofu and watching. However, as soon as he looked, he saw a little reflection not far from Aofu's feet. Reflection? How can there be reflection? Wait. This is glass. Lin Ke slapped his head. Yes, glass can also be made. In this way, some metal experiments can be done to determine the properties of metals, and the reactions of some element can be measured. Maybe chemistry can be developed. Chemistry, periodic table, various chemical raw materials and products. How come you even forgot about glass? Lin Ke just felt slightly fortunate that with a bonus of knowledge and lucky blood, he could grasp many inspirations. After all, he knew too much in his previous life, and sometimes it was easy to overlook some things. Boom. And at this moment, Lin Ke, who was thinking, suddenly discovered a terrifying celestial phenomenon actually formed above Aofu's head. The sky was covered with dark clouds, and lightning and thunder were crisscrossing above it, as if all the lightning points within a radius of 100 miles were attracted by Aofu. And it was even more terrifying here at Aofu. His whole body was wrapped in dazzling electric current, as if he had turned into a human-shaped lightning. Just when Lin Ke was about to thunder from the sky, all the electric current outside of Aofu's body suddenly retracted, and was all retracted into his body. The thunder in the sky seemed to have lost its attraction source and gradually dissipated. But under Aofu's feet was a piece of shiny broken glass. Sure enough, the productivity of high-end combat power is very strong, directly stronger than some high-temperature furnaces. Lin Ke looked at it and thought of the one-man factory in the future, thinking of some high-level legends working for him to produce glass, paper and the like. He was a little excited. And just when Aofu broke through, a few miles away from Lin Ke and the others. This is the outskirts of a small forest, a desert, and to the south of the desert is the famous Great Swamp. At this time, a person appeared at the place where Lin Ke had killed the old man king before. A woman. A woman wearing a blue and white dress, like a wave. This woman has light blue waist-length hair. Her skin is so soft that it can be blown away, and even her pupils are white on the left and blue on the right. She is nearly 1.9 meters tall. She stood in front of a stone, frowning and looking at it carefully, as if trying to feel something. This stone was the one that Lin Ke had teased the old man with before, and the old man died. After a while, her body turned into a huge wave and rushed towards the distant swamp. At the same time, a message quickly spread to the center of the swamp. I'm Chaozi, and I want to inform His Majesty Wumayan that the king of the gods, Zernatal, has disappeared, and the core of the plane is missing. 10 days later, let all the Warcraft kings come to see me. Time to work. Are you all moving bricks in the last few weeks before the new year? Chapter 52 Papermaking. Riverside. Lin Ke, thank you very much. Aofu looked at his own disciple and sighed. If it weren't for you, I don't know when I could break through the Starlight level. Starlight, the level below legend, the closest to legend. Legends and gods are like stars, and the meaning of Starlight is that you already have some of the power of legend. And after Starlight, it's legend. Level 20 to level 21. That's a big hurdle that has trapped countless Starlights and sub-gods. Once you cross that hurdle, you will be free to fly. Teacher, what I just said is not important. What's important is the path you have walked and the accumulation. That is the key to your promotion. Lin Ke was sincerely happy that his teacher could break through. Not only because of the relationship between teacher and disciple, but also because it means that Lin Ke's backing is a little stronger. Starlight, that's the Starlight level. It can be said to be the strongest below legend. The road we have walked before, without your push, we would not have been able to walk. AOF was cheerful and happy. His face was full of joy. Well, let's go. Let's take a walk. Aren't you going to make paper with plant fibers? Lin Ke was also very happy, but there were other things to be happy about. Teacher, maybe I have to trouble you for a while. Well, I mean, can you stop meditating during this period? He was quite embarrassed. AOF agreed without any care. Sure. After reaching level 15, or even level 10, meditation is not that important. What is important is to get professional feedback. Lin Ke breathed a sigh of relief. That's good, teacher. I suddenly found another thing that may be useful. He pointed to the crystal under AOF's feet. Huh? What's wrong with these sands? AOF looked at his feet in confusion. It's just some shiny sand, not as hard as diamonds, just a little more beautiful, not much use. Sure enough, according to the military value of this world and the occasional fires, lightning and other things, in fact, porcelain pieces and glass should have been available long ago. If Lin Ke hadn't known the use of glass in advance, he would probably have ignored those shiny things. Teacher, do you want to make a bet? Lin Ke smiled. Oh, what bet? What bet? Aofu looked at little Lin Ke with interest. I bet this thing is as useful as diamonds in research, and in many cases it is even more useful than diamonds. Lin Ke pointed to the mixture of sand and glass. Aofu looked at his feet, then at Lin Ke's expectant eyes. Okay, what's the bet? Bet. If I win, the teacher will promise me to be a worker for 4 months, specializing in making this thing. If I lose, well, Lin Ke pondered. What if he loses? He won't lose. But the bet must be there. But Aofu has everything. It is Lin Ke who needs Aofu, not Aofu who needs Lin Ke. If I win, you have to give me the first gold coin you earn. Aofu chuckled and said, our little Lin Ke should be able to make money by himself. Teacher. Lin Ke immediately raised his head, his eyes full of gratitude. Okay. Tell me, how do you want to do it? Aofu asked. Lin Ke originally planned to go back and study how to make paper, but now that he has glass, he will build a glass factory. However, he needs to go back and remember the manufacturing process of glass. Teacher, making this kind of thing requires some tools. We will do it tomorrow. Today, please build another factory. Lin Ke pointed to the open space next to the paper mill. This site is extremely spacious. One of the reasons why Lin Ke chose to locate here is that the land here is large. Aofu, is it exactly the same? Lin Ke nodded, and then an identical building rose from the ground under Aofu's control. The production process of the glass factory and the paper mill is different, and in fact the buildings should not be the same, but some subtle details can be adjusted after everything is gathered. After finishing, Lin Ke and Aofu returned to the roof of the castle. The roof of the castle is extremely spacious. It is a circular platform. You can only see the top of the arrow tower. Looking around, you can see the whole castle. The scenery is nice, but the wind is a bit strong. If Garros gets a few more wives and has a few more children, this platform will become the 6th floor, and then it will be built up like this. Aofu and Lin Ke landed. The person on duty on the arrow tower took a look and then looked away. He was very competent. At this time, on the platform, there were some boilers, bamboo mats made of tree bark, wooden sticks for stirring and other utensils. The initial production of plant fiber paper is not difficult. The difficult part is the improvement and evolution in several processes, and finally it becomes something like A4 paper in later generations. Paper making requires steaming and separating plant fibers into raw materials, and then beating to make pulp. Finally, the pulp is infiltrated with water to make slurry, and then the pulp is scooped with bamboo mats, so that the pulp is interwoven into thin sheets of wet paper on the paper scooping device, and finally dried to become paper. Aofu knew that this method of paper making was feasible as soon as he heard it. If it is developed, it may even replace the hard and expensive parchment. This makes Aofu marvel at Lin Ke's mind. After all, this kind of thing is just a layer of window paper. To break through this layer of window paper, you need some fleeting inspiration. And his disciple Lin Ke is just such a person with endless inspiration. The master and disciple landed and started to work. Aofu went to steam some plants. There were a total of 8 small pots, which were filled with some common coarse fiber plants collected by Lin Ke. Aofu's thunderstaff gently stopped on the ground, and a huge firebird condensed from the air. The servants around the castle, the people of the Azan troop, and the people on duty in the arrow tower exclaimed, and pointed at the firebird in the sky that was wider than the castle. Lin Ke felt a burning sensation, and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Teacher, maybe we can use less magic power to summon the firebird. Sorry, I just got promoted, and my power control is a little unstable. Although Aofu couldn't see it, he felt that the things he summoned were attracting a lot of attention, and he was still a little uncomfortable. He immediately waved his hand, and the firebird in the sky turned into 8 small birds and flew down, wrapping the 8 pots. The fierce flames burned, causing the pots to slowly boil. Lin Ke prepared the rest of the work, and then paid close attention to the 8 small pots, patrolling back and forth. Teacher, summon the servants of truth to stir. Lin Ke suddenly said as he looked at the stagnant water in the pot. Aofu summoned 8 servants of truth with a wave of his hand, and picked up a wooden stick beside him with his lightning arm, and began to stir. When it was almost cooked, Lin Ke started the steps of beating, paper making, drying, etc. one by one. With Aofu's participation, these steps became much simpler. Nearly an hour later, Lin Ke looked at the 8 small pieces of paper in front of him, and tested them one by one to see if they had the characteristics of paper. For example, whether writing could leave marks, whether the texture would be too brittle or too hard, whether the thickness could be thinned, etc. Unfortunately, in the end, no experimental product could be used. However, Lin Ke was not discouraged. He recorded the advantages and disadvantages of these plants, and then began to experiment with the next batch of plants. After the experiment with more than 20 kinds of plants was completed, Lin Ke conducted another mixed experiment. According to the recorded information, the paper with certain advantages was mixed, boiled, crushed, and dried, and these processes were repeated continuously. With the help of Aofu, the process became quick and convenient. After an afternoon, there were finally some results. Sedge, reed, wheat, lucky flower are all okay. Maybe they can be divided into various grades and ways of use. Lin Ke whispered, while looking at the experimental results in front of him. Aofu, who was standing next to him, looked at Lin Ke's careful and meticulous look, and his face was full of gratified smiles. Chapter 53 Preparations for the second performance. These kinds of paper are all good. What do you think, teacher? Lin Ke finished thinking, and prepared to listen to Aofu's opinion. Well, I'm not thinking a paper, but paper that can carry magic and skills. In the past, it was made of the skin of monsters. If we can grow some plants with magic. Aofu's eyes flashed with wisdom. Lin Ke's eyes lit up when he heard Aofu's words. Yes. Sometimes he would forget that this is a world full of professionals. As for these studies, I think maybe you don't need to accept my guidance. Aofu couldn't help but touch Lin Ke's little head. This was the first time he did this kind of thing, touching the head. In the past, he would run away when he saw people. But after touching Lin Ke's head, the soft brown hair felt good. So he rubbed it again, and then looked at Lin Ke's little face, and couldn't help pinching it. Well, it feels good. No wonder that little girl Feudal pinches it every day. Teacher. Lin Ke was helpless. It seemed that in addition to Feudal, another face pinching maniac appeared. We have just finished the research on plant fiber paper. Lin Ke, close your eyes, and feel the feedback from the research results. Aofu seemed to feel something, and closed his eyes. Lin Ke also closed his eyes after hearing this. In his feeling, he only felt a floating feeling coming from his body, which was more comfortable than the feeling of sage time. This is the feedback from the creation of plant fiber paper. The feedback from the world. After a while, the wonderful feeling faded. Lin Ke opened his eyes and smacked his lips. After a little perception, Lin Ke knew that he could go all the way to the 8th level, scholar, without any obstacles, and would not have to worry about bottleneck problems. I don't know what the scientific principle of this feedback is, but it can directly give people a physiological feedback. And it seems that Lin Ke can also refuse this feedback and accept it in the future. That is, save it for use together. Over there, Aofu had already opened his eyes. Although the invention of paper is of great significance, the very simple research process and results make this feedback unable to help him break through. It seems that Aofu has accumulated this feedback and saved it for future breakthroughs. Feedback comes from trays. The feedback on paper making this time came from Lin Ke's research, which corresponds to the scholar tray research. The feedback from the learning tray is generally very small. For example, when Lin Ke studied Nasang's history, geography, etc., he had some small feedback. When he reached a higher level, the feedback from the learning tray was far less than the feedback from research. There are two types of feedback on research. One is that something that has not appeared in the world has been researched, such as there is no writing in the world, and you invented writing. The second type is that something has appeared in the world, but the researcher does not know about it. For example, writing has been invented a long time ago, but it has not been spread. Other people also invented writing, and then got feedback. But the second type of feedback is far less than the first type. And if the researcher already knows that this thing has been researched and studied, and still studies it, feedback is feedback from the learning tray, and will not be classified as the research tray. Well, by the way, are you going to see that performance again? AOF suddenly thought of the performance that even he cared about. Okay. Lin Ke had been highly focused all afternoon. Although he felt relieved for a few seconds due to the research feedback, he still wanted to relax. It was still a while before dinner, so he went to see the situation of the Azanen troop. The Azanen troop was formed by Lin Ke and was divided into 4 groups. The first group was the male drama group, which was currently focusing on the play The Ring of the Coiled Serpent. The second group was the short drama group, which mainly performed short and meaningful stories, such as 1001 Nights, Andersen's fairy tales, Grimm's fairy tales, etc. The third group was the singing group, which, as the name suggests, mainly performed singing, but only 3 people were left, 1 man and 2 women. Next was the chorus group, which was all guards singing the glory of Azanen. The performances of these troops the day before yesterday were pretty good in terms of the aesthetics and entertainment of this world. Although Lin Ke didn't feel anything, it didn't stop others from enjoying it. Aofu and him came to the grove, and then Aofu went back. He could accept Lin Ke, but that didn't mean he could accept others. Social phobia hates this kind of meaningless social interaction the most. John, how's your recitation going? Lin Ke saw John mumbling to himself and called out. John was so absorbed in reciting his lines that he didn't even notice Lin Ke and off coming. John came back to his senses when he heard Lin Ke calling him. Master, you're here. John ran over happily and then suddenly blushed. Lin Ke was amused. What's wrong? My future butler. John was a little embarrassed and said, Master, can I try to speak without a script today? And without magic? Although John looked thin and small and was only about 6 years old, probably no more than 7, he was surprisingly good at hosting. There was no way. There were only 3 people who had the temperament of a host. One was Fueling, one was Butler Billy, and one was John. The others didn't have that temperament. And Fueling and Butler Billy were either not suitable, or too busy. So John had to be the host. Do you like being a host? Lin Ke smiled, but his eyes were serious. Yeah. John nodded heavily, then immediately shook his head. No, I still like to be your personal servant. Lin Ke didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How many times have I told you not to say such things? Haha. But he also knew that this thing could not be changed. I'm your servant, the most loyal servant, and then the others. John bowed deeply. Lin Ke patted John's shoulder with emotion. Okay, John, then it depends on your performance tonight. If you don't have the courage after the operation, don't let me down. John was a little excited. Okay, definitely. He immediately remembered the feeling of hosting before, becoming the focus of more than 200 people, and stirring everyone's emotions through the art of language. He liked that feeling very much. You recite the script first, I'll see how they are. Lin Ke waved his hand, and then entered the grove. If in the previous life, without some supervision, everyone might be playing with their mobile phones there, but this life is different. The life and death of servants, and even the life and death of civilians and slaves in the territory, are controlled by the Lord. These servants are very happy to be able to perform and sing here for a few hours every day instead of doing labor. Everyone naturally practiced diligently. After all, their young master said that, if they performed well in the future, they might not have to work at all, but would continue to perform. However, if some people performed poorly, Lin Ke would remove them from the crew and go back to their original work. Such motivation made the people in each group of the Azanen troop compete with each other. When Lin Ke came here and saw their situation, he was quite satisfied. One group of troops was performing the second episode of the coiled snake ring over and over again. And when an actor performed, others watched according to Lin Ke's instructions and gave feedback on the advantages and disadvantages of the actors, and at the same time they could reflect on themselves. This method made the performance skills of the crew improve quickly in the past 2 days. On the other side, the second group of troops were also performing the story of the fisherman and the goldfish. It was a story about a fisherman catching a goldfish, and the goldfish begged him to let it go, and then it would satisfy the fisherman's wish, but in the end, all wishes were dashed, because of the greedy fisherman's wife. It mainly tells that people should not be greedy. Lin Ke was very satisfied watching the servants performing in fisherman's costumes and simple goldfish costumes. They were at the level of junior high school students in his previous life. But why can't I hear any singing? Lin Ke was a little curious. The guard should have daily training without singing. After all, the chorus The Glory of Azan does not necessarily require too much practice. Lin Ke has no intention of teaching other songs. So, what about the 1 man and 2 women in the singing group? Just as Lin Ke walked forward in confusion, a pleading voice suddenly came from the front. Please let me go. Chapter 54 Amplification. Lin Ke raised his eyebrows and quietly walked over to the sound. In the bushes not far away, his 3 singers who were supposed to be practicing were fighting. A man and a woman were holding the other woman on the left and right. Sophie, you have to promise me that you must make no mistakes in singing today. The male singer pinched Sophie's chin and warned. That's right. The female singer next to him grabbed Sophie's hand and pressed it against a big tree. But this is the young master's order. Tears welled up in Sophie's eyes. You can't make any mistakes in singing. Hearing the young master's order, the man and the woman frowned immediately and then said again, then you can't make any mistakes, but you must not sing as well as us. Farce. Lin Ke understood after listening to a few words. The 2 people were obviously jealous of Sophie, who sang well. Sophie? By the way, why does this name sound so familiar? I promise you. Don't hurt my mouth. Sophie was unable to break free from the 2 people's restraints and could only beg them. The 2 were ready to let Sophie go. They were very sensible and would not leave any external injuries on Sophie. This was the way of survival for the servants in the castle. They could fight each other, but they could not let the master, the young master, and the lady find out. However, at this moment, the figure of a 7 or 8-year-old child came into view. The 2 singers, a boy and a girl, were immediately startled. Who allowed you to do this? Lin Ke slowly walked out from behind the bushes and looked at the two people in front of him expressionlessly. Young master. The male singer knelt on the ground in a cold sweat. Damn, didn't the young master have to do experiments in the afternoon? And next to him, the female singer was so scared that her face turned pale. She dared not move and couldn't say a word. She must have been scared silly. Sophie fell to the ground and turned her head to see Lin Ke. You get up, practice well, and don't make any mistakes tonight. Lin Ke's gentle voice came like a gentle breeze. Sophie was stunned. She had thought about facing the young master again many times, such as when she was recalled to continue to be a personal maid, but she didn't expect to face it in this situation. Young master, Sophie murmured. Get up first and go practice. Lin Ke was very satisfied with the song sung by the maid in front of him. Now she is at the level of a child star, and in the future she will be at the level of a singer. He would have trained the other two people. After all, they are his servants. But he was unhappy that the entertainment industry was brought out so early. It is true that where there are people, there are struggles, but he hopes that this kind of internal competition will be carried out through technology, singing voice, expressiveness, character, etc., rather than through vicious competition. You two should also perform well tonight. Lin Ke glanced at the male servant kneeling on the ground and the female servant who knelt down weakly next to him. Thank you, young master. Thank you, young master. The male servant kowtowed to thank him quickly, and the female servant next to him was not psychologically strong. As if she was reacting, she also kowtowed to thank him. However, after the performance, go and explain the situation to Butler Billy yourself, otherwise I will help you. After Lin Ke finished speaking, he left without looking back. The child star girl who sang well was only about 10 years old, right? And the two singers, a boy and a girl, were both in their 20s. This was the reason why Lin Ke was angry. If it weren't for the fact that these two people wanted to have sex with the girl, but still remembered who they were serving, Lin Ke really wanted to replace these two people. Although he didn't have any other suitable singers, and these two were also tone deaf, at least they sang with some feeling. Young master. The girl singer followed Lin Ke, looking a little scared. Don't be afraid of them, go practice. Lin Ke smiled back, and then walked away quickly. Because he was in a hurry to go back to eat, he didn't have time to talk more. And, he suddenly remembered, isn't the name of this girl the name of his former personal maid? Here, personal maids are important candidates for sexual enlightenment in the future. Lin Ke didn't want to give his first time to an inexplicable aristocratic sexual enlightenment ceremony. Sophie immediately stopped, feeling a little sad. When I think your singing is good enough, come to see me again, Sophie. Lin Ke's body was moving away, but his voice came over. Sophie's original sad expression disappeared. She stood there, looking at Lin Ke's back, with an unknown light flashing in her eyes. The night came as expected. In the wonderful land, there was even more noise. Rows of servants of truth and guards holding torches were maintaining order. There was no way. Although Lin Ke expected that there would be people standing by to watch, he did not expect so many. Fortunately, there were enough guards, and the servants of truth were also endless under the almost endless magic of Teacher Orth. It was just that the sound was too noisy, a chirping sound, and Lin Ke in the cloud felt that he was about to explode. Little Lin Ke, it's so noisy here. Next to him, Feudal plugged his ears with 2 fingers. Yes, it's noisy, a bunch of low-class people. Madame and Tova looked calm. Antova and Feudal were now emotionally stable, and they did not feel the sadness and despair when they learned that Garros was trapped in the plane. In this way, Orth and Lin Ke's assurances were very useful, and at the same time, Butler Billy's emotional mediation also played a crucial role. Do you need me to calm the people down, ladies? Butler Billy bowed and asked Antova and Feudal. Under their feet, there was a floor made up of triangular servants of truth, for the 4 of them to stand on. Orth was on a higher ground. Although he knew Feudal before, it was just an acquaintance, which could not cover up his social phobia instinct. Wait a moment. Lin Ke cleared his throat, and the magic power surged in his body. Then he took a step forward, and said in a majestic tone, quiet. It was so powerful, but his voice seemed to be spread through some kind of power. It was not magic, sound amplification, that is, amplification. Before he reached the second level professional, he could not even use the first level magic. This was just a little trick. But he did learn this little trick of using magic power, so that he would not often shout until his voice was hoarse. Who is that? That is the voice of Master Asnan. At this time, Lin Ke said quiet again, and everyone gradually quieted down and stopped talking. It was quiet, with only some rustling sounds. Wow, little Lin Ke, you can do magic. Feudal was full of surprise, and the eldest lady and butler Billy were also slightly surprised. Lin Ke did not deny, no, this is just a small trick of using magic power, taught by teacher Orth. It's just a small trick now, but there are large-scale advanced magic such as sonic blades and destructive shocks later. Great. Feudal cheered, and then looked at Antawa. Sister, let's celebrate tomorrow night. Yeah. Antawa glanced at Lin Ke indifferently, and then continued to look at the stage. That chattering manservant went up. I hope I won't waste my time here. Chattering manservant? John. Lin Ke laughed in his heart. The eldest lady's time at night is either staring at the night sky or having her personal maid massage her back. You're wasting your time. But with a huge debt of 280,000 gold coins on her head, I guess the eldest lady is also having trouble sleeping and eating. And seeing that Feudal has regained her form of vitality, Lin Ke is also relieved. So he didn't say anything, but continued to look at the stage. At this time, on the stage, John changed into a bright red butler uniform, holding only a wooden stick that was amplified by Orth. He didn't have a script, but he seemed to have memorized the previous script. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the wonderful place. John's passionate but nervous and trembling voice sounded. Without the magic of courage, he was still a little nervous looking at the crowd. But when he finished speaking, the scene suddenly became silent. No one responded to him. It was a cold scene. John suddenly swallowed his saliva, and in an instant he forgot the script he had memorized for a long time. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55 SYNOPSIS Self-Enlightenment. Oops. Lin Ke immediately understood the reason for the silence. He said quiet at first, because the audience was too noisy. Those civilians were not smart enough. They had never experienced such a stage before, or it was the second time they experienced it. They didn't know what atmosphere was. The silence before the performance did not mean the silence during the performance. Lin Ke was struggling whether to say something to relieve the situation, such as you can make a sound now. But that would make people feel like a tyrant. Even ordinary tyrants would not let their subjects not make a sound, because it didn't make much sense. If it really doesn't work. Lin Ke looked at the top of his head. If it really doesn't work, just let the teacher add a few buffs to John. Just let John continue to speak. Lin Ke thought about it in just a moment. Well, let John continue. But to his surprise, John over there was not panicked or embarrassed. John bowed his small body to Lin Ke and said, Master, can we cheer now? For you who are great and wise, and for this wonderful performance? Swish. The people in the territory all looked up at Lin Ke, who seemed to be standing on the clouds. They all subconsciously thought that Lin Ke's silence was during the whole performance, so they were asked not to speak. So the people in the territory were very obedient and didn't speak. Lin Ke breathed a sigh of relief and said with a slightly high-pitched voice, the silence is over. Cheer as much as you can. The people in the territory looked at each other at first and then burst into cheers and whistles. Oh, who? Even Feudal couldn't help but cheer foolishly and then was glared at helplessly by Antawa next to her. Of course, Antawa didn't notice that her face and eyes were changing, becoming a little happy. Emotions and atmosphere are very important. Over there, John exhaled deeply in his heart, but his face was full of passion. First of all, our first performer is Sophie from the third group of the Azanen troupe. This time she is singing the most dazzling Azanen. The composer is the great master Lin Ke Azanen. After that, John left the stage amid cheers. His back was already wet. Only then did he realize what the young master had said, that this profession called host requires language art and on-the-spot adaptability. His heart was slightly touched. After being rescued by Lin Ke, Sophie spent 2 hours to calm down and regain the feeling of singing. She felt very lucky. She once thought that it was because of her problems that made young Master Lin Ke uncomfortable. After all, young Master Lin Ke was still young at that time, and it might be that she did not do something well and hurt the young master. But now, young Master Lin Ke not only did not blame her, but rescued her from the hands of the two partners. In fact, young Master Lin Ke has always remembered her. When you think your singing is good enough, come and see me again, Sophie. These are the original words of the young master. The young master knows her name. As we all know, the young master has a very good memory, but he can't remember names. The young master's original words were, Western names are so hard to remember. So annoying. Although these servants don't know what connection they have with the West, they know that the young master can't remember the names of others, except those few people, such as the name of their head maid. But the young master actually remembered her name, Sophie. The composer is the great Master Lin Ke. At this time, in front, John shouted this sentence, and the stage went dark. However, when the stage went dark, a knocking sound came from the stage. Amid the surprise and curiosity of the audience, Sophie slowly appeared on the stage, and the servants of truth lit up again. The vast horizon is my love, the bright flowers in Lake Orlan are blooming. Sophie, wearing a bright red dress, came on stage with a half-mature voice and a warm smile on her face. The singing in Sophie's mouth mixed with the sound of knocking pots and pans behind her. In fact, there was only that kind of big pot, and a male servant tried to hit the pot with a big iron spoon. This is the instrument prepared by Master Lin Ke for their singing group. As the name suggests, it is an instrument for playing music. Sophie listened to the sound of these instruments, and found the melody that the master said. You are the most beautiful cloud in my sky. Let me keep you with my heart. When she sang to this point, an inexplicable look flashed in Sophie's eyes, and her eyes couldn't help but drift upwards. But she knew that it was definitely impossible for her and Lin Ke. At most, when she was still a close-fitting maid, she could teach Lin Ke some things that a man should do on the first night. Oh, shy. What are you thinking about, Sophie? However, maybe. The master didn't let me be a close-fitting maid, and then said that I could see her if I sang well. Could it be? When Sophie thought of this, her voice became more excited, and her face flushed slightly. The anger of being abandoned before, the resentment after not understanding, the grievance after thinking it through, the fear of being threatened, the joy of seeing the young master, and the touching, because the young master didn't forget her. Singing the wind of Azan and leisurely. Stay. The song was over. After Sophie finished singing, she closed her eyes. All the audience just started to get excited following Sophie's voice. It sounds good. So good. This girl is really good. She must be easy to give birth to. This girl must be a goddess. She must be a goddess who has been lost in the world. The audience discussed enthusiastically. The warm-up was successful. In the air. It sounds good. Good. Feudal cheered excitedly, and the whole person danced with the melody, like a 25-year-old innocent beautiful, kinda naive fishman. Lin Ke looked at the instruments with amplification below, and was also very satisfied. To be honest, the singing was very average. It seemed great to the people here, and they had never heard such a great voice before. But Lin Ke felt that there was still a long way to go. However, the musical instruments can also be developed, such as drums, trumpets, suanas, zithers, pipa, harps, etc. But these are not important. Lin Ke developed these just to make the stage more diverse, to make it more likely to form a career and gain followers who will never betray him, and to make money to pay off debts. It is not just entertainment for entertainment. This performance is really good. Madame and Tower nodded slightly, trying to remain reserved, but Xiaofu's cheeks betrayed her heart. And Tower glanced at Lin Ke. Little Lin Ke, you are so smart. Lin Ke's mouth curled up. It felt good to be praised by the enemy. Feudal was still cheering. Little Lin Ke, it's so beautiful. That girl's performance is so beautiful. It's like a gorilla with a poor vocabulary, who can only praise beautiful when hearing a good song. Singing, that's called singing. Lin Ke corrected. Singing is just a kind of performance, but it is more special. It is performed through singing, not words and actions. Feudal didn't reply. She was busy cheering and singing along with her tone-deaf voice. She even seemed to want to walk to the audience full of untouchables in Antao's words and sing with them. The next performance was the second episode of The Ring of the Coiled Snake, as well as some skits and singing. However, when John was about to go on stage, Sophie suddenly stood still on the stage and closed her eyes. The audience was still cheering. However, Lin Ke found something wrong. The singing was over, and John was also preparing to go on stage. Why didn't Sophie go down and still close her eyes? Sophie closed her eyes, with a few freckles on both sides of her high nose bridge. Her cheeks were red, and her golden hair was shining under the light of the servant of truth. It seems that a little Sophie is not immersed in everyone's cheers. So, let's send off little Sophie with more cheers. John took advantage of the situation and prepared some words that Lin Ke had taught him. As he went on stage, he pushed Sophie invisibly. He knew Sophie and even kept in touch with Sophie many times. They were good friends. Although Sophie was whipped by Butler Billy before. However, John poked Sophie and found that Sophie couldn't be poked. Sophie? John didn't know what to do for a moment. However, at this moment, 7 or 8 servants of truth floated down from the sky, stretched out their lightning arms, and lifted Sophie up to the sky. Continue the show. Orth's voice came, ringing directly in John's ears. So, the show continues. Chapter 56 Self-Enlightenment and Singer. Lin Ke looked at the girl lying on the ground in front of him, and asked in disbelief, is there such a thing? Little Lin Ke, you've asked for the 8th time. Feudal knocked on Lin Ke's little head. Lin Ke rubbed his head, looked at the girl in front of him, Sophie, and looked up at the sky. The reason for his shock was simple. This maid named Sophie actually performed self-enlightenment! No, according to the ancient saying, it should be like a firefly emitting the first ray of light that breaks through the darkness, and the abbreviated text should be self-enlightenment. Orth just told him that the maid's behavior is very similar to that of some ancient people. In ancient times, there was no such thing as blood enlightenment. Everyone directly tested whether you have affinity for elements such as wood, earth, wind, water, fire, thunder, light, and darkness. Test element affinity, and then use light magic deterrents to test mental strength. If you are suitable, you will be a noble magician, and if you are not suitable, you will be a warrior or an ordinary person. It was not until Andrew appeared later that various professions appeared and flourished. For example, a person with mud bloodline had a low affinity for water and soil in ancient times, and was not suitable to be a magician. But in modern times, after the bloodline is enlightened, he knows that his bloodline is mud, so he can do a profession like swamp walker. If it doesn't work, he can also be a scholar, and then slowly study the most suitable profession for himself. So the professional system is powerful here, all-encompassing and all-inclusive. But in fact, in ancient times, before Andrew appeared, it was not that no one had enlightened bloodline. Some people would be enlightened in a certain special state, and then go to the soul space by themselves, and then see their own bloodline. But there are very few such people, even in the endless plane. Aofu said that someone enlightened himself in an extremely angry state, and then because he closed his eyes during the sliding process, he was eaten by the Warcraft tiger on the opposite side. So even if he enlightened himself, others would not know, and there were too few cases and lack of research. Aofu said that even he didn't know one in the past few hundred years. In other words, he only heard someone say it once, and then he knew the state of a person when he enlightened himself, and the fluctuations emitted. But why did the maid Sophie in front of him enlighten herself? Was it because she was too excited, and too excited to sing? Being too excited, and too excited, can also enlighten oneself? Then wouldn't it be like masturbating? Is there such a thing? Thinking about it, Lin Ke couldn't help but blurt out again. The 9th time. Feudal covered her face, then ignored her own son, and continued to watch the performance. TSK. And Tower looked at Lin Ke, who seemed to be mentally retarded, with disdain, and then continued to pay attention to the performance below. For her, enlightenment or not is not important. Those lowly people are enlightened to become professionals, and then join the nobility. But Antawa was originally a noble, so she didn't care about these at all. The performance below was still interesting. And Lin Ke was still looking at Sophie. This person is his follower. Convinced. Why? Because Uff told him that anyone who enlightens himself has a very good blood talent. And the original task told him that for every additional profession, he would have an additional follower who would never betray with a talent level of very good or above. Lin Ke originally thought that when the time comes, he would give a free enlightenment opportunity to those who perform well. Then he would let them experiment with Lin Ke's professional matching. For example, actor, singer, and so on. Actors and singers who perform well should have a better understanding of those professional characteristics, so as to improve the integration rate of characteristics. Unexpectedly, the system task gave Lin Ke a surprise. Teacher, how long does it take to enlighten yourself? Lin Ke asked the sky. I don't know. Aofu really didn't study this much, because it was accidental and there was no need to study it. Well, Lin Ke walked around Sophie and looked at Billy, the butler next to him. Uncle Billy, is this Sophie the personal maid I cancelled before? Yes, young master. Billy, the butler bowed. Lin Ke stroked his chin. Sophie doesn't need to work as a scholar now, she can directly work as a singer, as Lin Ke envisioned. At the same time, it also saved 1,000 gold coins in enlightenment fees. If the system is so powerful that every follower of his can be self-enlightened, he may save thousands of gold coins. 1 copper coin is equivalent to 4 or 5 RMB, and 1 gold coin is 4 or 500. Several thousand gold coins can save hundreds of thousands. Of course, the purchasing power and exchange rate of both sides are different, so it is not calculated in this way. But in short, self-enlightenment is very cost-effective. Uncle Billy, starting tomorrow, Sophie will completely leave the castle and join the Azan troop. Lin Ke ordered directly. Such talents who are destined to become professionals in the future are wasting time to be maids. They are destined to be followers. What is important is strength. And Antao's ears moved over there, but there was no response, while Billy bowed directly to agree. In Billy's opinion, let alone asking for a maid, even if Lin Ke disbanded the entire maid group and replaced them all with muscular male servants, he would agree. Because he knew too well how much his hot-tempered master loved his eldest son. Then let's continue watching the show. Lin Ke knew that this sultry old man, Billy the butler, actually liked watching shows. For example, the arrival of the First Lady, Antoine, and Feudal was also the result of Billy the butler's strong suggestion. The show continued, but Lin Ke's mind had already drifted to the tray ratio of the profession singer. Well, the tray obviously had to include singing, as well as the pitch and timbre trays that we had thought of before, and perhaps the rhythm tray. Do you want the hidden rules tray? No, every industry has hidden rules, but in the past life, everyone only saw the entertainment industry. Well, then let's see if these 3 trays are enough for now. On the stage, one skit after another, as well as the series interspersed with singing and musical instruments, easily aroused the emotions of the people in the territory. Joy, sadness, anger. Until the end of the show, the people in the territory were still savoring it. Not just the people in the territory. Feudal has become a drama fan and began to ask Lin Ke about the plot behind the coiled snake ring. Even the eldest lady Antoine, who was deep in Lin Ke's eyes and heart, focused on Lin Ke when Feudal asked, wanting to hear Lin Ke's spoilers. It is human nature to chase dramas, but spoilers are not. So Lin Ke didn't say it, and said that the 3rd performance of the Wonderful Land would be revealed in 5 days. Yes, 5 days. Lin Ke plans to expand the Wonderful Land again, directly make it a big theater, and then invite people from Parrot City. By the way, invite some nobles such as barons, lords, and pioneer knights from the territory of Azan, and perhaps some low-level professionals. Why? Because Lin Ke wants the first professional he gave birth to have more audiences and deeper insights. Professionals who perform in this form may not get feedback from learning and research like scholars. Perhaps they get feedback from the number of viewers, the strength of performance skills, the quality of singing, etc. What if someone is self-enlightened like Sophie? And you can make money. Chapter 57 Black Mountain Delivery. Today, the 2nd day after the performance. After a night of chattering, Feudal was too lazy to ask Lin Ke about the plot of Snake Ring. Even if she asked, Lin Ke would not tell her. Moreover, the things in the city have been delivered. She bought a little leopard at the pet store before, and the Baron Puxin bought a dark blue giant tiger cub at the auction to please him. Lin Ke asked them to send these two later, because he was afraid that Baron Puxin would harm the people of the purchasing team. Today, Lin Ke had just sent Nyx, who was going to the countryside to seek experience, to the door when he saw the convoy. Okay, Nyx, maybe after you successfully understand the profession of doctor, you should treat your tear glands first. Lin Ke waved goodbye to Nyx, who was crying. Nyx's body of more than 1 meter was wearing a bright red dress, and his ears fell softly behind his head. You know, Nyx is a lop-eared rabbit. Mr. Lin Ke, I will definitely understand these characteristics as soon as possible. Nyx bowed very gentlemanly, which was learned from Butler Billy, but his tearful eyes ruined his temperament. What's there to cry about? It's so close. It's very convenient to come back. John muttered behind Lin Ke, and then couldn't help but say to Nyx, hey, you must come back to play with me more often. John and Nyx actually have a good relationship. Okay, Mr. John. Nyx shed tears and wiped the fur wet by tears. He tightened the small bag on his back and embarked on the road to practice medicine in 5 villages. Maybe there are not only 5 villages behind. Maybe he will go to the territories of some barons in Azan. Who knows? Lin Ke's request to Nyx is to come back within 5 months and work as a doctor. After Lin Ke said goodbye to Nyx, he looked at the leader of the caravan opposite, a big and strong woman with black hair on her hands. Then he stood and waited, waiting for the woman to come to Lin Ke. As the future heir of Azan, unless he is some noble, he doesn't have to go to greet him specifically, just stand and wait. Damn noble etiquette again. Sister, the shopkeeper of Akali, why did you come here in person? When the woman came to him, Lin Ke kept a noble smile and politely greeted her. The stout woman in front of him was the manager of Akali's shop before. The female manager in front of him, who had short black hair tied behind her head, slightly dark skin, and a general's belly, bowed very humbly. Master Azanan, I say hello to you on behalf of Earl Akali. Earl Akali, the one who opened Akali's shop all over Nassang and directly obtained the status of Earl with his status of level 13 merchant. There has always been an unspoken rule in Nassang, that is, only those with strength of level 15 and above can obtain the title of Earl. Of course, this strength can be personal strength, family strength, or even wife strength, etc. Only level 13 can make him an Earl. The financial resources of Earl Akali are indeed too strong. Lin Ke will not look down on the world just because her teacher is level 20. However, the kindness of Count Curly, the kindness of the pet count. Madam, how about coming with me to enjoy a delicious brunch? The lucky flower milk cake in our castle is delicious. Lin Ke looked at the female manager in front of him and changed sister to madam. My pleasure, polite little sir. The female manager hurriedly returned the greeting. From her movements and demeanor, it can be seen that these aristocratic etiquettes are not only troubling Lin Ke. John, arrange these little animals and send someone to prepare some refreshments. By the way, I want a glass of gilla milk without the lucky flower. Lin Ke instructed John, and then walked into the castle first. Okay, young master. John bowed, smiled and nodded to the female manager, asked someone to deal with the 2 pets and prepare refreshments, and then came back and took the female manager upstairs. Madam, please come this way. John now did not look reluctant when he said goodbye to Nyx a minute ago, but was full of enthusiasm and elegance in his movements. This is what he needs to have as a butler in the future. The female store manager followed John up to the study on the top floor, where Lin Ke was sitting on a chair waiting for her. It was unknown when, perhaps since Orf's arrival, Lin Ke could come here naturally. Originally, the study was considered a semi-forbidden area and no one could enter. Now Lin Ke goes in every day. Madam, sit down. Lin Ke looked at the female store manager in front of him with interest. She looked rough but delicate. Yes, Mr. Lin Ke, if you can call me by my code name Black Mountain. The female store manager codenamed Black Mountain sat down in front of Lin Ke rather stiffly. Then, Ms. Black Mountain, may I ask if the distinguished Count Akka has any instructions or orders for me? When Lin Ke heard the word Black Mountain, combined with Ms. Black Mountain's appearance, He always felt that this codename was well chosen, but on the surface he would not show that kind of disrespectful look. Mr. Lin Ke is the honorable young master of Azan. How could the Earl give him orders or commands? Seeing that Lin Ke had no reaction to her codename, Ms. Black Mountain showed even more respect in her eyes. I'm here on behalf of Earl Ackley to greet Mr. Lin Ke and congratulate the Azan family on the birth of a powerful being beyond level 15. A powerful being beyond level 15. Lin Ke understood immediately after hearing this. The original price is like this. Originally. Why does a store manager have to come in person for such a delivery? And now Lin Ke understood. It turned out to be because of Mr. Orf. Before, Orf was angry in Parrot City because Lin Ke was imprisoned by Puzinan. Although Parrot City is only a small border town, it is the closest city to Azan Castle. You know, the hinterland of Azan is not in the center of Azan territory, but in the southernmost Azan Castle. After all, the castle of the strongest man in Azan is here. So, when Orf almost destroyed a city because of Lin Ke, the news spread all of a sudden. A strong man who is definitely above level 15 actually accepted the young master Lin Ke Azan as his disciple. You know, the king of Azan is only a level 12 knight. Above level 15, he is already considered a strong man, plus Viscount Geros who is above level 10. Many people who don't know the truth just think that Azan's title may be moved. As for the Parrot City that was almost destroyed, no one paid attention to it. Even the lowest level Viscount has about 1 to 2 planes under his command. The destruction of 1 or 2 cities will not affect it, as long as it is not a matter within his own territory. Maybe there are many idle legends who will preside over justice, but who cares? They are more concerned about who the professional is, and whether Lin Ke Azan's teacher has joined the Azan family. If he joins, Viscount Azan's level may have to be raised again. And the surrounding territories may also have to re-evaluate him, making friends with those who should be made friends, and striking at those who should be struck. After all, although the planes are infinite, the plane coordinates are limited. Many viscounts and earls cannot stand the fact that there is one more professional with a level 15 or higher professional behind him. This means that competition will intensify. Maybe it means that the plane coordinates that the Gila royal family originally wanted to grant or sell will be awarded to Azan. However, a merchant like Count Ackley may not care about the attacks between lords, but trade and relations. Lin Ke smiled slightly when he thought of this. Thank you all for your rewards and monthly tickets. A kiss to each of you. Chapter 58 A plane? Exclamation mark. My teacher will always be my strongest support, and vice versa. Lin Ke smiled. Ms. Ishan understood immediately after hearing this. The existence of level 15 or above was just Lin Ke's teacher, and he did not join the Azan family. Perhaps in the future, Lin Ke will be able to join, after he becomes the king of Azan, but there is no need to worry about things that will happen so many years later. Mr. Lin Ke, in addition to congratulating you this time, I also want to give you a gift on my behalf, a birthday gift. Ms. Ishan's face full of flesh was full of respect. Birthday gift? Lin Ke was stunned for a moment, and then reacted. His 6th birthday seemed to be in 5 days. Yes, this gift represents my personal respect, and I hope to gain a certain amount of your friendship. Ms. Ishan spoke softly. At this time, John came in with 2 maids, carrying 2 cups of Gila milk and 2 exquisite sour fruit milk cakes as refreshments. A certain amount of friendship? Lin Ke first drank a sip of the sweet milk, then waved away the 2 maids, leaving only John to serve behind him. The friendship of the nobles is not a simple friendship between friends. Sometimes it is like a favor in the previous life. For example, Orf told him in class that there was a viscount who gave too much friendship and gave away all his territory and finally became a city lord. However, noble friendship is not necessarily a fiefdom. It can also be something that is not shabby. For example, a certain amount of money, a treasure of a certain quality, or a crucial help. At this time, the news from Ms. Black Mountain can actually be exchanged for the sincerity of the birthday gift and a noble friendship. Tell me, what is it? Lin Ke was very curious. Mrs. Heikyo first looked around and confirmed that there was only John, a personal servant, and then she said nervously, a plane. A plane. What? The originally indifferent Lin Ke clapped his hands on the armrests of the chair, stood up in an instant, and his face was full of shock. A plane? Question mark? A plane? How is it possible? The Azan family only has one plane in total, and it was given to Geros by His Majesty the King after they were promoted from a baron family to a viscount family. It was the plane that his bastard father, Viscount Geros, is fighting for now to pay off his debts. You have to know that, although there are many planes, only legends or some powerful and special professionals can break through the crystal wall of the plane and travel to the astral world. This makes the transmission coordinates of the plane extremely precious. Legends must travel through the astral world for a long time before they can find a plane. And except for a few powerful legends, most legends will only take the ownerless planes they encounter as their own, or give them to the forces and families behind them. Those who can sell planes are either for equal exchange of interests, or weak people who are unable to develop, or because they don't like the internal environment of the plane. Or some powerful kings or gods sell them to enhance the cohesion of their subordinates. For example, the king of the kingdom of Gila is one of the most powerful people in Nassang, and he often sells planes to the nobles under his command. However, planes are something that big people gamble on. Lin Ke was even prepared that he would not be able to access other planes, except the one of Geros, before he reached level 15. Maybe he could access it after he reached level 15 and became an earl. And now, this ordinary person in front of him, or a professional who was only 1 or 2 levels at most, actually had a plane? Exclamation mark. No, Master Lin Ke, you misunderstood. Ms. Black Mountain was very burly, but her behavior was very restrained. It was a tiny plane, only the size of a half-parrot city. There was no life in it, only minerals. After all, she knew that, although the person in front of her had only a level 1 aura, there were more than level 10 and 15 behind him. Microplane? Lin Ke couldn't help rolling his eyes in his heart, and then sat down. Can you speak faster next time? That's not a plane, it's a small space, okay? Small spaces are usually left behind by some powerful people after death, and space rings can be made. For example, Aofu had his own plane when he was level 15, but it was only a few dozen square meters in size. It was not until level 17 that he cultivated it to the size of a castle. If Orf dies, his own plane will become an ownerless space, and it may disappear, or it may be inherited or picked up by others. Of course, there is also a tiny possibility that it will grow into a large plane, and then breed souls, and become a main plane like Nassang countless years later. I'm sorry, Mr. Lin Ke, it's my fault that I didn't make it clear. Ms. Ishan apologized. It's okay. Are you going to give me the coordinates of that space? Lin Ke's tone returned to calm. A small plane like that is not particularly useful. After all, the territory of Azanin is very large. Unless, yes, Mr. Lin Ke, there is a small landmine in that plane. I hope it can help you. Ishan said respectfully. Well, it's a plane, but it's actually a hidden iron mine. But it's good to have a plane, so you can build a laboratory there in the future. Small space plus iron mine. I'll take it. Lin Ke waved his hand and took a mine directly. If you need me in the future, I'll give you 2 chances, and I'll do what I can. He would never do stupid things like dividing land, at least not under certain circumstances. That was beyond his ability. Mr. Lin Ke, this is the secret key of the plane. You can use it to enter and exit the plane, and you can also teleport people through some magic circles. When Ms. Black Mountain heard the 2 chances promised by Lin Ke, she was delighted, and her joy was beyond words. So she immediately stretched out her big hand like a palm fan, took out a light green key from the tsunami on her chest, and handed it over. Lin Ke glanced at John. John understood and stepped forward, took the key, and wiped it carefully, making sure there was no danger, and then handed it to Lin Ke. This is the secret key, which is a kind of auxiliary prop with spatial coordinates engraved in it. Thank you for your gift. I like it very much. Haha, yes, I like it very much. Haha. Lin Ke smiled, and was very happy. It would be a lie to say that he didn't like it. He hadn't experienced the shuttle plane yet. He hadn't had time to go to Aofu's place either. Now he couldn't wait to go in and take a look, but the guests were still there, so he wouldn't be so rude. Thank you, Mr. Lin Ke, but Mr. Lin Ke, I want to use one of your help now. I mean, your humble friend needs your help. Ms. Black Mountain had been secretly looking at Lin Ke, and seeing that Lin Ke was very happy, she showed a cautious look on her face and said tentatively, "You sit now? Are you sure?" Lin Ke played with the secret key with his right hand, raised his eyebrows, and was a little surprised, but he was in a good mood now, so he asked, "You know, for someone like Lin Ke who has a promising future, this kind of help is crucial." Now he uses a small space to exchange for two helps. When he becomes Viscount Azan, or becomes a strong man above level 15. Maybe a large plane is needed to exchange for such noble friendship. If the help of a first level professional and aristocratic heir waited for more than 10 years, it might become the help of a powerful person who was famous all over the continent. Therefore, Lin Ke was very curious about what kind of thing could make this visionary Black Mountain give up the opportunity in the future and choose the present. Chapter 59 Hatching Eggs. In the study, when Lin Ke asked, Hishan hesitated for a moment and then immediately said, "That's the young master." The big and strong Hishan now looked cautious and awkward, which was different from what Lin Ke saw in Akla's shop. After Hishan's story, Lin Ke suddenly realized. In short, after the incident in Orth, the complicated network of relationships under Baron Puxin in Parrot City was scattered. Because everyone knew that Baron Puxin would definitely fall, and there would definitely be a new Baron or Lord to take over Parrot City. So, what Miss Hishan wanted was to get a piece of the pie in this chaos, or to get the biggest piece of the pie. Because everyone knew that King Azanan had not returned yet, and Baron Puxin would definitely be finished after he returned. Of course, everyone was curious about how Baron Puxin dared to offend Lin Ke because they didn't know that Garros was in trouble. Now, Hishan plans to ask Lin Ke to lend her butler Billy for 5 days and tell her that she has gained Lin Ke's friendship. This is a case of a fox borrowing the power of a tiger. As for Aofu, who is behind Lin Ke, he is also an important figure that Ms. Hishan will use to pull tiger skins. Parrot City? Sure, you can unify all the underground forces. Lin Ke agreed directly. The reason why those underground forces are still underground forces is because they are too weak. Although it is also a force, it is false for Lin Ke to say that he is not interested. After all, the information channels of the underground world are very good. But Lin Ke has too many things to do now, such as being more powerful. This is also the consensus of Nassim. No matter how big a force you build underground, it is useless. This world is ruled by nobles and strong people. However, Lin Ke thought of the closetedness of the news of Azan Castle, so he looked at Hishan with deep meaning. If you can really unify those low-level forces in Parrot City, maybe you will have my true friendship. Thank you, Mr. Lin Ke. The original joy in Hishan's eyes turned into a burst of joy. A smart and only son of the noble heir. Black Mountain was dizzy and chatted with Lin Ke casually for a while, and then left Azan Castle in a daze, accompanied by Butler Billy. Looking back at the castle that was getting farther and farther away, Black Mountain and the ox cart withdrew his eyes and sighed. Mr. Lin Ke's intelligence is really the earliest I have ever seen in my life. The young master's precocity is far more dazzling than you think. Butler Billy, who was sitting next to him, smiled and agreed, with a kind of pride in his tone. He liked others to praise Lin Ke. Black Mountain nodded, and then looked at Butler Billy very seriously. For the next 5 days, I'll leave it to you, Sir Billy. It is my duty to complete the young master's instructions. Billy answered politely, and then said, but please let me go back earlier. Little John may not be able to be responsible for a grand birthday party. Believe me, Sir Billy, I hope to finish it earlier than you do. Ms. Black Mountain nodded happily. This trip is worth it. A medium-sized iron mine can be exchanged for the rich underground world of Parrot City. This is really a good deal. As for that space, just as Lin Ke thought, at least for the upper class of society here, land is not of much use here. Only land with people, or even with social nature, is a treasure that everyone pursues. Because of constant contact with some new human societies, some new people, and new power systems, the legends who lack inspiration can have a chance to break through. Therefore, in Hishan's view, a small space with iron, or in exchange for the underground world of Parrot City is really a good deal. In the study, that lady Hishan is really smart. Lin Ke looked at the secret key in his hand and admired. But I think she is so stupid. The young master is going to become a legendary professional in the future, and one of the two opportunities has been used up. When no one was around, John returned to nature and did not continue to speak in a rigid manner. This was also Lin Ke's order. He didn't want his playmate, since childhood, to become a servant. No, this is her cleverness. Before a sapling grows into a towering tree, it is just a sapling, at most a sapling with potential. Lin Ke smiled and shook his head, looking at the secret key in his hand. Which one do you want? The 1 million you can get now for sure, or the 100 million that may not exist in 10 years? Obviously, Ms. Ishan chose the former. However, if the smart and well-intentioned woman really has potential and courage, Lin Ke may be able to use her later. Let's just consider it as Lin Ke's investment. After all, a mere iron mine actually only gets Lin Ke's noble friendship at most. The extra opportunities given by Lin Ke are also Lin Ke's reverse investment in Ishan. If that female man can seize these two opportunities and soar to the sky, Lin Ke will indeed give her true friendship. Okay, John, let's go. Lin Ke got up and drank the remaining half cup of Gila milk, ate 2 pieces of lucky flour milk cake, and then patted John. Go and see how the 2 cats are trained. I don't want my mother's beautiful face to be scratched. Lin Ke came to Feudal's bedroom and found that 2 new types of noble cat slaves were being amused by their cat masters. The 2 people and the 2 cats rolled around on the bed, shaking. This made him feel a little itchy. He also has a pet. In his previous life, he raised a loyal and warm Labrador that could produce fesses and shed hair crazily. Although a lot of fesses and hair loss are basically disadvantages. But there is no doubt that pets can heal people's hearts. So he asked John to get his own egg and then called his teacher, who was exploring the mystery of paper on the roof. You want to sign a master servant contract with this egg and then hatch it? Aofu pointed to the egg with light yellow patterns in front of him, but frowned rarely. What's wrong, teacher? Lin Ke was stunned for a moment. Is there a problem? Little Lin Ke, if you want a partner, I can go to the Great Swamp and catch a monster cub with good blood for you. Aofu touched Lin Ke's head and explained, a person's soul has limited endurance. Unless you are a full-time monster summoner or plant summoner, it is difficult to have too many partners. As he said, Aofu said in a serious tone, you should know that your partners will have followers in addition to monsters. The most common followers of Nasenj are those who sign a master servant contract to gain the trust of the master. However, the soul carrying capacity of a person is limited, and it is impossible for everyone to sign a master servant contract. It's okay, teacher, I'm sure. Lin Ke did not talk about his lucky bloodline, nor did he talk about the absolute loyalty confirmed by the system. He just looked at Aofu and said, teacher, you have to believe me. Aofu couldn't help but think of his always smart disciple, who seemed to have never done anything that disappointed him, but he still reminded, remember what I told you, it is very uncomfortable to cancel the soul contract. Lin Ke nodded. Simply put, for the master of the master servant contract, cancelling the contract feels like tearing the leg hair with a strong tape, while for the master slave, it feels like cutting off the leg directly. However, Lin Ke was not sure that the monster in the monster egg in front of him would be absolutely loyal, and at the same time, this egg was obtained by him under the guidance of luck. So he wanted to sign the slave contract first. Sign it when the monster is still an egg, so that the egg will feel close to him before hatching. The master servant contract is a gift from Akalistor, including the deep blue giant tiger cub of Fueling, but the ordinary beast cheetah of the eldest lady does not have it. Okay. Aofu thought about it and finally agreed to Lin Ke. I have a friend who once exchanged a monster hatching magic circle with me, which can hatch monsters without injury. Hatching monsters is not like hatching eggs. You can just sit on it. In addition to birds, many monsters here are oviparous. Generally speaking, only the parents of the egg know the conditions for hatching the egg until the human professions, summoner, and keeper appeared. Universal Monster Hatching Magic Circle also appeared. And now, hatch the eggs. Chapter 60, has it hatched? Originally, Antoine and Furlong wanted to watch the hatching ceremony, but Orf was really socially phobic, so only Lin Ke and John came to watch the hatching. Orf was seen lying on the ground drawing a magic circle, with a glowing magic stone in his hand, and the professional power on his body flowed into his hand. He first drew a circle with his elbow as the center, then drew a hexagram in it, and then wrote various ancient characters in the blank spaces. For example, life, revival, inspiration and so on, combined together through some mysterious patterns. Moreover, the blood power input in each position is different, with ups and downs. Orf does not have a part-time job related to magic circles, such as secret writer, magic circle scholar etc. He works part-time as an enlightenment teacher, but he can still draw some basic magic circles. After the drawing was completed, Orf stood up, put the egg in the center, and nodded to Lin Ke. Go, it only takes a drop of blood. Lin Ke walked forward, walked to the side of the egg, and stretched out his finger. Aofu waved his hand, and a current flowed from Lin Ke's fingertips, bringing a drop of blood to the eggshell with pale yellow patterns. Little Lin Ke, input your power into the egg. Aofu stood aside and then reminded. Lin Ke immediately mobilized the little energy of a poor first level professional and input it into the egg. In an instant, the entire magic circle was activated, and the lines on it emitted a trace of fluorescence. Lin Ke's blood power, or magic power, was sucked out and then retreated. Aofu then stepped forward to input magic power. Magic power is also needed to activate the magic circle. Lin Ke's little magic power is not enough at all. It can only be said to be the seed to activate the magic circle. Aofu is the main force that cultivates the seed to break through the ground. The hundreds of years old man took a step forward, and the surging magic power caused a small magic whirlwind to blow around. The teacher's magic power is really powerful. Lin Ke admired and envied sincerely. You will definitely be stronger than me in the future. Aof smiled kindly. His body remained motionless, allowing the egg to absorb his magic power. 3 minutes later, Aof's magic power was still surging, and Lin Ke smiled at John next to him. John, you see, we must work hard. The teacher is our role model. Aof's beard curled up, and his hand tightened the staff a little shyly. Well, the foundation must be laid firmly. John on the side nodded as if he understood. 5 minutes later, Lin Ke couldn't help but marvel. John, you see, I only lasted a few seconds, and teacher Aof is really amazing. Yeah. John nodded desperately. He hasn't even become a first level professional yet. Aof hid the magic stone that had just been sucked dry in his left hand, pretended to be calm and said, Little Lin Ke, your pet is very talented. It absorbed nearly 80%, nearly 50% of my magic power. He enjoyed the feeling of being praised by Lin Ke, just like a grandfather telling stories about the past and then being admired by his grandson. It feels good to be admired. Although he was almost sucked dry. Teacher, is it okay? When Lin Ke heard that 50% of Aof's magic power had been sucked away, he was worried and happy. He was worried that Aof's magic power was not enough, but he was happy that his pet was indeed gifted. It's okay. After Aof finished absorbing the magic stone in his hand, he secretly changed another one, and was secretly shocked. His long-dead teacher once gave him a pet, which was an ancient dragon egg. However, even for that dragon with excellent bloodline talent, the egg of nearly 1.56 meters long only absorbed about 12th or 13th level of magic power. And now, this egg has absorbed about 18th level of Aof's magic power. So much so that he had to use magic stones to absorb magic power, and even sucked 4 or 5 pieces dry. And the egg absorbed a huge amount of magic power, and the light yellow pattern on the eggshell gradually became vivid, turning into an opal golden color, and the pattern on the eggshell seemed to swim around like an animation. Half an hour later. Lin Ke, teacher, your magic power is as deep as Lake Orlan. Lin Ke imitated the tone of Billy Butler to praise. Aofu, haha, your pet may be really good. Well, I will feel relieved in the future. Aofu thought gently in his heart, that's great. It feels so good to have a disciple. John, so amazing. The young master speaks like Billy Butler. 1 hour later. Lin Ke, teacher, your magic power can be compared to the endless sea of stars in the southernmost part. Lin Ke, what is the teacher holding in his left hand? Aofu, haha. Aofu, well, it's great to have a disciple. John, 1.5 hours later. Lin Ke, teacher, you Aofu waved his hand to stop Lin Ke's words and said in horror, "Something is wrong. It's too powerful. I have never come into contact with such a bloodline." 1.5 hours. Endless magic power was sucked up by this egg. As Aofu finished speaking, the light of the magic circle in front of him gradually disappeared and was absorbed by the egg. Too scary. Aofu took 2 steps back, but his face looked normal. Aofu estimated in his mind that this kind of magic power was at least legendary. He input a legendary magic power. You know, the gap between each level after level 15 is very large, and the gap between level 20 and level 21 is even bigger. It took half an hour to reach level 20, and it took more than an hour to input a whole legendary magic power. Now it's nearly an hour and a half, and I don't know how much I have input. Teacher, does this mean that my pet's bloodline has great potential? Lin Ke's eyes lit up. Aofu silently put away the magic stone and smiled slightly. Yes, I mean, it may have the bloodline talent of reaching the top. He didn't say Andrew level. He always thought that there should be 10 more levels between that level and reaching the top. After all, the gap is greater than the gap between level 1 and level 20 professionals. Reaching the top. Lin Ke was surprised when he heard Aofu's words. This talent. Andrew is ranked first, and reaching the top is second. This pet. No wonder it can cause the lucky bloodline to beat. Crack. Just as they were talking, the egg over there made a crisp sound, which attracted the attention of the 3 people. A small hole suddenly broke on the eggshell that was shining with a faint golden light, and there were 7 or 8 cracks around the small hole. Lin Ke instantly felt that he had a kind of intimate connection with the life in the egg. "Zyro Lin Ke, come forward quickly," Aofu suddenly urged. Lin Ke reacted immediately and ran over and squatted down. Aofu asked John to step back as well, and the 2 of them stood far away, because many animals will regard the first sight after birth as their closest relatives. Of course, except for some races with inheritance, such as dragons, there will be consciousness in the egg. It seems that this is not a dragon egg. Aofu and John stood up, and Lin Ke squatted, all very expectant. But after waiting for a few minutes, the egg in front of them did not change again. After a while, "Oh no, Zyro Lin Ke, break the eggshell quickly. Otherwise, the monster cub might suffocate to death." Aofu seemed to remember something and spoke quickly. Lin Ke looked at the eggshell in front of him and frowned. "Should I break the eggshell?" Chapter 61, Breaking Free from the Shackles. Phoenix? Exclamation mark. The top of the castle. "Zyro Lin Ke, hurry up, or this potential monster cub will die." Aofu's tone was rarely anxious. He was not concerned about the magic stones he had used up, nor was it because the talent of this monster was rare. For him who had already reached the starlight level, many other things were not important, except the possibility of breaking through the legend. And in addition to many other things, Lin Ke was undoubtedly important to him. Both a teacher and a father. He hoped that his disciple Lin Ke could have another powerful helper and partner. "No, teacher, wait a minute." Lin Ke spoke, then closed his eyes, frowned and tried to feel the bond and intimacy that suddenly appeared in the soul space just now. It was an extremely thick, but very weak soul bond line. This was brought about by the use of the master-servant contract before. Little guy. Lin Ke tried to call, but the breath on the other end of the soul bond line did not respond at all, and even became weaker and weaker. Lin Ke looked over along the soul bond line, and saw a little bird curled up over there. But, could it be a phoenix? Lin Ke's heart was shocked, and he called out again, "Little guy, wake up. If you don't wake up, you will die." Lin Ke did not choose to help it break the shell, because Lin Ke knew that the first stage of egg-laying animals is extremely important. Only by breaking through the first challenge of life and death can they survive in the natural world in the future. If the instinct for survival cannot even break the shell, then this animal may soon die in the natural world. It looks like it has broken the shell, but it contains endless will. Transcend. Breakthrough. Inheritance. Survive. Therefore, Lin Ke hopes that this little bird can break through by itself, otherwise the future will be full of difficulties. But why are there layers of chain-like things around the little bird? Exclamation mark. Chains? Exclamation mark. He said that he input a legendary magic power into it, but it couldn't satisfy it. It turned out that there were shackles. But the moment he saw those chains, Lin Ke suddenly understood the meaning of those chains in his mind. These chains are not man-made, but naturally generated. The bird's race needs to rely on its own strength to break through the shackles when it is born, otherwise it cannot exist in this world. So, little guy, you must survive. Break through this layer of darkness. There is light outside, do you see? It is sunshine outside. You are a phoenix. Phoenix is always unyielding and proud. You will be reborn in the flames, instead of dying in the darkness. Little guy, wake up. Lin Ke called out to the curled up bird in front of him, and his heart became more and more anxious. If the bird's life reaction just now was like a cluster of flames, the life reaction now is like a little spark in the firewood that has just been extinguished in the heavy snow in winter. Even the shackles are tightening, as if to strangle the bird. Little guy, wake up. Lin Ke was really anxious. After crossing over, he has always been very calm. Except for Fron, Uff, John and Billy, he hardly cares about others. But now, the master-servant contract brought him a sense of intimacy, and he thought of the pets he had raised in his previous life. Pets are just passers-by in people's lives, but people are everything in pets' lives. He didn't want to see a life that could have been born in the world and had a close relationship with him die, or anyone would feel compassion when seeing the birth of life. Little guy, you are a phoenix. You are a phoenix. A phoenix will never die with its head down. Lin Ke only felt that the fiery red color of the bird in front of him was very similar to the phoenix in Chinese legends, so he was even more reluctant to let it die. Perhaps this is the only thing in this world that is similar to the previous world. Lin Ke knew that it took him 6 years to forget everything in his previous life after he traveled here. But now, the memory and intimacy were awakened by the phoenix in front of him. Little guy, I'm Lin Ke, can we get to know each other? Lin Ke was already a little panicked, and the life breath of the little phoenix in front of him was getting weaker and weaker. Chiji. Suddenly, as if because of hearing Lin Ke's self-introduction, the curled up soul body of the little phoenix opened a weak eye, and the black and bright eyes looked at Lin Ke weakly and curiously. There is a reaction. Seeing this, Lin Ke suddenly became excited. Little guy, open your eyes. Peck the outer eggshell. No. Use your beak. Use your claws. Use your wings. Use everything you can. You have to break through this barrier. You have to smash this shackle. Outside is the sun. Outside is the world. You have to survive. You have to survive. Surpass yourself. You are a phoenix. Shishi. The little phoenix actually began to twist its thin body after listening to Lin Ke's words. The master-servant contract also brings unimpeded communication between souls without having to worry about language barriers. In the darkness, the little phoenix stretched out its tender and soft claws and pushed hard around. It raised its head and squeezed and beat weakly, sliding its featherless wings to push the darkness on all sides. However, in Lin Ke's perception, its breath was still weakening, as if the surrounding eggshells were too hard and the shackles were too strong. Cry. In the soul, the little phoenix made an unwilling and painful cry, and even Orphan John outside heard some movement in the eggshell. Don't give up. Don't give up. Just when the little phoenix revealed a feeling of being very tired and wanting to rest, Lin Ke shouted in the soul space, how can your life, your destiny, be blocked by a mere eggshell? You are the phoenix of China. The unyielding phoenix. The legend of China embodies the unyielding will of the Chinese ancestors to fight against nature, which is also what Lin Ke has been proud of and passed on so far. The phoenix is also full of rich colors in the Chinese legend. Lin Ke himself didn't know that he didn't want to see the little phoenix die, perhaps because he didn't want to see the spirit contained in the Chinese legend in his heart pass away. You are a phoenix. How can you die in giving up? You must hold your head high and throw yourself into death. You must be reborn from the ashes. Lin Ke in the soul space shouted, can't die. Suddenly, in the unknown depths of Lin Ke's soul, a wonderful and gorgeous ball of light trembled slightly. A needle-sized light point shot out from it like a bullet, piercing through the 3 blood vessels on the surface, piercing through the soul space, and upstream along the soul bond line, and rushed into the little phoenix's eyebrows in an instant. But Lin Ke didn't see it. However, the little phoenix in front of him suddenly made a shrill and sharp cry, and an unyielding and unwilling thought burst out. It heard Lin Ke's words. Burn all your life, and don't give up. Cry. The little phoenix struggled again, as if it was wrapped in a quagmire. The claws were curled, the wings were not yet grown, and the beak was not sharp. Then use bones. The shackles rubbed its soul and flesh, and became tighter and tighter. As the little phoenix struggled, and the shackles deformed, in the outside world, one crack after another spread from the small hole that was broken at the beginning. Bang, bang, bang. In the outside world, the bird in the egg hit the eggshell hard again and again, making the whole egg sway, and the golden lines on the eggshell gradually moved faster and faster. Suddenly, crack, a crisp sound, as if in a chain reaction. Pieces of eggshells fell off one by one, and there were bright red blood on those eggshells. Crack, crack, broken. On the side, the originally nervous John exclaimed. And Orf also breathed a sigh of relief, and stepped forward to start carving a new magic circle. A simple life-healing magic circle. And Lin Ke breathed a sigh of relief, after seeing the shackles broken, and feeling the little phoenix's increasingly strong soul and life breath. He put his heart back in his stomach, and exited the soul space, opened his eyes. A small shiny black eye met his eyes. The little phoenix in front of him had no feathers on his body. The whole body was supported on the half-grown eggshell by the broken wings, and the whole body was covered with blood. After consuming a huge amount of magic power that even exceeded the legendary level, and experiencing a near-death experience, the little phoenix finally hatched successfully. Quack. The little phoenix tilted its head and looked at Lin Ke with one of its small eyes. Little guy, you did very well. It seems that nothing can stop you in the future. I mean, no difficulties can stop you. Lin Ke did not think that the little phoenix was dirty or bloody, but felt kind and distressed. He gently touched the head of the little phoenix. Just call yourself lucky. So lucky. Lin Ke knew that the little phoenix almost died. Perhaps his lucky bloodline gave it a little luck? It's just, little Lin Ke, put this little parrot in the healing formation. Don't leave any sequelae. Aofu next to him finished carving a simple life healing magic circle, and placed some plants rich in life characteristics on several nodes of the magic circle. Yeah, okay. There's no time to lose. Don't let him suffocate to death by the eggshell or the shackles, but bleed to death instead. It's just, a little parrot. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62. The paper mill starts operation. He placed little Lucky in the life-healing magic circle, and then closed his eyes in a burst of green light. Lin Ke then discovered that the beak of what he thought was a little phoenix was actually curved. Good guy. In his previous life, Lin Ke didn't have a curved beak in a place full of gay friends, but now Lin Ke's bird is curved? Okay, it's alright. Lin Ke noticed that this was a little parrot, and didn't dislike it. Whether it was a phoenix, a parrot, or a rural chicken, it was his future partner at this moment. A son doesn't dislike his mother's ugliness. No, a mother doesn't dislike her son's ugliness. No either. Anyway, that's the general meaning. Lin Ke looked at the little parrot in front of him with joy, and picked it up after its wounds healed. He had raised budgies in his previous life, so he knew that keeping young birds warm was very important. Thank you for your hard work, teacher. Let's go back. Hatching two parrots as big as two palms naturally aroused the curiosity of Feudal and the others. But it was just curiosity. After all, women like furry or handsome and beautiful ones. They are not interested in hairless ones. But if Lin Ke likes it, then the whole castle will certainly like it too. Lin Ke had someone prepare carefully selected velvet, and spread it in a small basket, and brought millet and oats to make a paste for little Lucky as food. Then Lin Ke needed to take care of his own affairs, and little Lucky would naturally have servants to take turns to look after him. Perhaps, when little Lucky grows up, its terrifying talent will begin to show, right? Lin Ke's first thing was to arrange everything for the paper mill. The materials for paper making have been experimentally proportioned, and the rest is to buy some paper mill equipment. This is another large sum of money. Iron resources were in excess in the last world, and although they are not rare in this world, they are also hard currency. Buying those large iron pots for boiling water must be specially made, and the blacksmiths in Azen Castle cannot do it. There are also various wooden tools that need to be compiled, which are all very troublesome. Butler Billy was not there, and John was busy with these logistical work, so Lin Ke had to manage and coordinate them together, and then it was running. But this also shows the role of Butler Billy. Usually, Lin Ke has everything he needs, such as clothes and water. He always has delicious breakfast, brunch, lunch, afternoon tea, dinner, and supper. This is all due to the strong housekeeping ability of Billy. However, the role of the eldest lady in tower is also reflected. After seeing the chaos in the castle, she took charge of it personally. Since the eldest lady is in charge of these trivial matters, Lin Ke naturally agrees. He concentrates on arranging the number of people for each process in the paper mill, and arranging a certain number of guards to guard and keep it confidential. After the arrangements were made, he came to the gate of the factory. There are more than 200 people here, mostly uncles and aunts, and some young people are also there. Lin Ke didn't think much about it. After all, the work of the paper mill does not necessarily require youth. If the uncles and aunts can withstand this intensity, they can do it. Everyone, I'm Lin Ke Azen. Lin Ke, accompanied by 2 guards, came to a wooden platform in front of the factory and stood there, smiling at the villagers below. Master. Hello, Master. Master, you are so handsome. The old men and old ladies were full of praise. Their long life experience told them that it was right to say nice things. Lin Ke was a little embarrassed. He was still used to applause and attention, rather than mindless and insincere praise. Although he was quite friendly and was telling the truth. But he still raised his hands and pressed them down. Everyone, be quiet and listen to me. He used his own amplification skills to suppress the voices of the crowd. The villagers quieted down and looked at Lin Ke expectantly. They came here because they said there was a job here before. Everyone, I will recruit 50 people as factory employees for trial production. As soon as Lin Ke opened his mouth, the expressions of the people below changed. They widened their eyes and even looked a little unbelievable. Only 50 people. What can they do? You have to know that in this era, a lord who can't hire or can't afford professionals to do things usually recruits 100 people. For example, building castles, managing manors, etc. They even guessed that Master Lin Ke was not teasing them. Everyone. This is just the first batch. Lin Ke raised his voice and tried to make himself look more friendly. I will have other factories to work for other people later, and even if all the villagers come, it may not be enough. Before mechanization and automation were realized, manpower was the cheapest and most easily available thing. Every small month, you can get a salary of 3 silver coins. Every year, you can also get a certain reward based on your performance. Note that the minimum reward is 1 gold coin. Lin Ke announced loudly that, in order to make money, you can only spend money first. Naseng is divided into 12 small months and 4 big months every year. This is a powerful professional astrologer based on the 4-level transformation. It is said that the legendary astrologer is a follower of the Sleepless Emperor who once killed the goddess of luck, and now he has kept a god for the Sleepless Emperor to specialize in the change of the 4 seasons. The month of sprouting, the month of flowing fire, the month of plenty, the month of silence, 4 big months, and 12 small months. In fact, it is spring, summer, autumn, winter and December, and each month has 30 days. At this time, hearing the treatment Lin Ke mentioned, the villagers suddenly became excited. Is there such a good thing? 1 gold coin. 1 gold coin can be awarded every year. And there are so many silver coins every small month. Is this true or false? Oh, the sun god. No, Master Azanan, I'm not dreaming. They only heard the key words, so they were all amazed. Lin Ke smiled and pointed to a guard next to the platform and said, everything I said is recorded by the photo stone. I guarantee it in the name of Azanan. The villagers looked at one of the guards in unison. He was holding a black photo stone with a faint glow in his hand. However, the villagers didn't care about the photo stone at all. When they heard Lin Ke guarantee it in the name of Azanan, they believed it. Nobles generally don't put their own glory after their lives. In other words, nobles are willing to use their lives to protect the name given by the nobility. But Lin Ke spoke again. The villagers stared at Lin Ke again, not daring to breathe. Their moods were up and down because of Lin Ke, and they were afraid that Lin Ke would say something bad again. However, there are certain procedures for selecting workers, and they have to sign a confidentiality agreement with me, otherwise they cannot be employed. After Lin Ke finished speaking, he explained what a confidentiality agreement was, and then left it to the villagers to react. Who knew that the villagers had no interest in asking more about the confidentiality agreement, but looked around cautiously, looking at everyone as a candidate for an interview. In their view, the people of the territory are the private property of the Lord. Is there any difference between confidentiality and non-confidentiality? Of course, in Lin Ke's view, this is not the same. Contracts have actually appeared a long time ago, but now the most popular in Asan is verbal contracts. Oral agreements signed in the name of their own nobles are sometimes more reliable than paper agreements. Of course, there are also people who use the gods they believe in as notaries, and many gods can justify countless contracts with just a little bit of divine power. For example, the previous king of the gods seemed to want to trick him into signing some unequal treaties. But in the eyes of people nowadays, paper contracts are outdated. It would be much more convenient to just swear in the name of God. However, Master Lin Ke can do whatever he wants. The villagers are now eyeing the position of those 50 people. Then, the interview begins. Chapter 63 Talents in Interviews. A small bright room. Lin Ke rubbed his aching waist, got up, turned around and stretched himself, and nodded to the guard next to him. Next, the guard shouted to the outside. The next moment, a hunchbacked old lady came in from the outside, sat down, and was as agile as an assassin. Young master, I'm the most capable Granny's say. When I was young, I could cultivate 2 large plots of land by myself. Now my little Lin Ke is doing all the work at home. The old lady spoke a lot of words eloquently as soon as she came in. After all, the previous interviewers would tell others what they said when they came in. The villagers are never stupid. When they know what the Lord is looking for, they will consciously show it. Granny's say, how old are you? Lin Ke looked at Granny's say's pure white hair, sparse wrinkled skin, and arched back, and asked the fatal question directly. Granny's say rolled her eyes. I can't remember. Probably in her 50s or 60s. But I tell you, Granny's say is amazing. Some 40-year-old guys are not as capable as me. Granny's say said proudly with her hands on her waist, raising her head with drooping cheeks. Lin Ke closed his eyes and rubbed his eyebrows. Granny's say, people over 70 can't come to work here. Oh my god. This is not the previous life. Without good nutrition and good medical conditions, it is a true portrayal that people live to 70. However, perhaps because of the existence of magic or some other reason, although these people are ordinary people, their bodies still maintain a certain vitality when they are old. But they can't be too old. This Granny's say in front of me looks at least 90 years old, right? My god, a tooth is gone. I would feel guilty if I used such workers. How is it possible? Who told you I'm already 105 years old? Was it old George? Andrew's leg? He's such a disgusting and stupid fishman. Granny's say put her hands on her hips and glared. Lin Ke even felt that her 2 eyeballs would leave her body and become a king in the next moment. Lin Ke, how much? Over 100 years old? Master, listen to me. Granny's say is very skillful. I can also do magic. Granny's say ignored the guard's nervous eyes and nervously approached Lin Ke and whispered. It's over, and she's still suffering from Alzheimer's. Lin Ke sighed, first signaled the guard not to talk too much, and then said to Granny's say softly, Granny's say, this job is not suitable for you. I will definitely consider you when I have other jobs in the future, okay? Papermaking still requires some physical strength. An old man over 100 years old should just bask in the sun and tease his grandchildren, so as not to hurt his waist or something. When Granny's say heard what Lin Ke said, she became anxious, even straightened her hunchback a little, and said with her hands on her hips, no, master. Granny's say is very honest. I will show you my magic right now. Granny Zase took out something wrapped in leaves from her arms, ignoring Lin Ke's increasingly pitiful and gentle gaze. Lin Ke sighed again. Granny Zase, I will definitely arrange your next job, okay? For example, for work like making clocks, you can just move a chair and sit down to do it, unlike paper making, which requires stirring and moving. He felt that Granny Zase was like the old man he had seen before, who became more and more childish as he got older, cute and pitiful. You have to know that professionals have a certain sense of each other's magic power. Unless they deliberately hide it, it is easy to know whether the other party is a professional or a magician. In his opinion, Granny Zase is really just an ordinary old man, the kind with a long life. Look, my magic can make it produce explosive fire. However, Granny Zase anxiously spread out the leaves in her hand and showed Lin Ke what was inside. A bag of black dirt residue. You actually tease the young master? The guard next to him wanted to kill the crazy woman with a sword. How dare she use a bag of dirt to fool the extremely intelligent young master Lin Ke! Exclamation mark. However, when Lin Ke heard the explosive fire and saw the black dirt in front of him, his pupils shrank violently. This is Granny Zase. Does this thing need to be ignited with fire? And will it make a loud noise? How do you know? This is the magic I discovered. Granny Zase collected the leaves and put them back in her pocket, her eyes rolling. Her wrinkled old face was full of pride. The power of this magic is huge. Because this is the gunpowder named after paper making. Lin Ke was silent for a while before speaking again. Granny Zase, you are not suitable for this job. Granny Zase saw Lin Ke's expression change and said her magic in one word and thought she could successfully get the job. Who knew that she was rejected? Master Lin Ke, I still have magic. Granny Zase was like a girl over 100 years old whose lollipop was robbed. Tears started to flow in an instant, almost as fast as Nick's tears. More? Lin Ke was a little curious, but he still had 10 vacancies for the interview, and he needed to interview another 100 people, so he waved his hand. No more talk. Granny Zase panicked, but she didn't dare to disobey Lin Ke, so she walked towards the door with tears falling. Okay, woo, I'm leaving. Just like a girl over 100 years old who had her lollipop robbed and was kicked twice by a bully. The bully spoke again at this time. Granny Zase, I haven't finished what I want to say. Would you like to talk to me alone after the interview is over? In Azan Castle. Talk about another job. Bully Lin Ke smiled and looked at Granny Zase. Ah. Good. Thank you, Master Lin Ke. No, thank you, Master Lin Ke. Granny Zase suddenly turned around, and her tears stopped in an instant. She smiled like a flower, an old chrysanthemum with more than 100 petals. Lin Ke waved to the guards. First, let someone send Granny Zase to the castle for arrangements, and then the next one. The guards took the order, and went out to make arrangements. The next person also came in. Lin Ke first drank some warm gila milk to moisten his throat. After all, he had been talking all day, and his throat felt like he had swallowed a round of 8th level magic flame magma. The next person also knew the rules from the people in front, and he spoke at once. Hello, Master Lin Ke. Lin Ke turned around. This was a handsome young man with long golden hair. If his skin had not been roughened by the sun and wind and sand, and his expression had not been so honest, the golden hair, blue eyes and beautiful features would definitely be very handsome. I'm Watson, Master Lin Ke. The blonde Watson said respectfully. I only have a large piece of land at home. I have a lot of time, and can do a lot of work. His speech was rather plain and simple, but Lin Ke had a good impression of this simple and honest character, so he first wrote down his name. Watson? Which village are you from? As in village 3. Watson immediately reported the numbers that Lin Ke had assigned to the 5 villages, which were number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 from north to south. Okay, remember to come to the first staff meeting in the evening. Lin Ke waved his hand, and Watson went out immediately. Then he interviewed another batch of people, and finally ended the torture of the day. The meeting will be held in the evening, and work will start tomorrow. Chapter 64 Comparative Experimental Method. At night, at the factory gate, 50 people sat on small benches, looking at Lin Ke on the stage, surrounded by the servants of truth with lights on. Aofu loved this disciple very much and often followed him when he had nothing to do. Others were son slaves and daughter slaves, but he was definitely a disciple slave. Lin Ke stood on the stage, and the servants of truth around him suddenly shone their lights on Lin Ke. Lin Ke didn't say anything at first, but stood quietly, smiling at the 50 people in a mess, young and old. Although he was small, his temperament blessed by the leader bloodline, coupled with his experience in the previous life, made him look quite majestic. The villagers stopped talking, and their attention was involuntarily cast on Lin Ke. Lin Ke spoke, "My employees, workers." He spoke to new words at the beginning. Employees, workers. But these 50 villagers roughly understood the meaning of these two words, which should be workers. First of all, congratulations on becoming the first batch of employees of Azanan Paper Mill. As he said this, Lin Ke clapped his hands clap and smiled. The soldiers around him also began to applaud. The villagers didn't understand why, but they clapped along. That's how herd mentality works. Lin Ke put down his hands, and the guards stopped clapping immediately. Then, when the clapping ended, the villagers followed suit and stopped clapping. They understood. Clapping seemed to express approval and respect. He spoke again. "Starting tomorrow, it will be a brand new and beautiful day. We welcome tomorrow with hope and passion, just like welcoming the radiant morning sun." He used a little bit of the beginning of a leader's speech, that is, telling a story and describing the beauty. It was used too much in the past life, because it was used too much, and some people were not sincere, and some hostile forces smeared it. So no one believed it at all. But it's different now. The simple and shrewd villagers have not been exposed to information bombardment. They just think that their young master is worthy of being a noble. Young master speaks so nicely. What a beautiful common language. If you can speak, you should speak more. I don't know where to buy the young master's works. You can't understand it, even if you buy it. The villagers had no rules, and they talked about it while listening to Lin Ke. Lin Ke didn't care. He couldn't manage too strictly at the beginning, otherwise they would all be scared away. So, with my joy, pity, and expectation, I asked my teacher, a powerful professional, to help me build this factory, a paper factory. After saying that, Lin Ke signaled to the leader of the first group of the guard team below. Then there was thunderous applause again. Then, let me talk about the 5 employee rules. There are 5 small points under this big point. 3 agreements should be emphasized here. Well, finally I want to say, after half an hour of speech, the villagers' eyes gradually became shocked. How could this person's brain think of so many things? He is worthy of being a young master. After emphasizing these, Lin Ke finally rested his smoke throat. The previous lectures and today's employee meeting were all recorded with a photo stone. The struggles in his previous life made him understand that sometimes you should not believe in absolute things too much. For example, some people say that nobles value reputation more than life. Lin Ke will definitely understand that most nobles value reputation more than life under certain circumstances. In case of any disputes in the future, today's photo stone can be kept as evidence. After the staff meeting, Lin Ke naturally went back. The castle was being decorated, and John was busy behind an tower. The decoration was for Lin Ke's birthday party 3 days later. As the only heir to the future Azanan territory, every birthday party of Lin Ke must be very grand. Although there may not be many guests, this is one of the days to show the status of the nobility, and it cannot be shabby. For example, in the past few years, no nobles came, including other minor nobles of the Azanan family. Lin Ke didn't feel it, and Feudal was even less likely to have any. Only Antawa would show an ashing look every time she talked about it. According to Antawa, those low-class nobles who didn't even come to the birthday of Azanan's eldest son were simply a group of low-class worms. And those high-class nobles were people without long-term vision. Just like the Gila cow who could only see a piece of grass in front of her. The eldest lady's choice of words and sentences in scolding people has always been very distinctive and focused. Lin Ke walked through corridors, where the walls of the corridors, which were originally made of bricks and stones, were hung with framed paintings. These paintings were usually stored in a specific place, and were only displayed on special celebration days. Because Azan's highest title was only a viscount, in the eyes of the real Nasan nobles, he was just like a small section chief in a small county town in a remote area. Asen could not afford servants to maintain the paintings, nor could he afford such material consumption, so he could only move them out for display on special holidays. Walking up the spiral staircase in the center of the castle, there were still the Great Asen flags hanging on it. Asen Castle, which did not look like Asen Castle. Lin Ke shook his head, said nothing, and went back to meditate. Little Lin Ke, can you tell me more about the comparative experimental method you told me before? At this time, AOF was standing on the balcony of his room waiting for him. Lin Ke walked in and smiled when he heard it. When he was studying papermaking before, he used the comparative experimental method, which was to use different control groups to verify the heat, materials, stirring degree, drying time, etc. This greatly benefited Aofu. After asking, Lin Ke found out that Aofu's teacher was only level 10 and died early. The research method passed down by Aofu's teacher was very simple, which was to watch. For example, what Aofu did for hundreds of years was to intercept a lightning and then lock it in his own plane to watch. Just stare with wide eyes, look, touch, listen, and even lick to feel. This is the research method of people in this era, or the research method of most people, to feel through the most primitive body organs. After all, it is popular here to work behind closed doors. The only academic exchanges that Lin Ke has heard of are quarrels and even fights between materialists and idealists. There are no exchange meetings, no colleges and universities, no research institutes and research institutes. Only teachers pass on to disciples, and nobles pass on to their descendants. Even the royal family of the Kingdom of Gila, which set up something similar to a research institute, is completely under the command of the king. The academic research atmosphere is too poor, and there is no academic grandeur in Lin Ke's previous life, Cheyenne linear and afterwards. Teacher, it's like this comparative experimental method. Lin Ke told it again, this time focusing on giving examples to make Aofu understand. AOF was not arrogant, and he never felt ashamed to ask others. After listening, AOF stood on the balcony, closed his eyes, and thought about something. Lin Ke did not disturb him, but took out the artifact fragments from the bedside table, sat on the velvet back chair tailored for him, and began to meditate. Lin Ke did not hide the artifact fragments from AOF at all. After all, they were just fragments. Not to mention the relationship between Lin Ke and AOF. At AOF's level, he could beat some weaker gods. So, after asking, AOF checked it, and returned it to Lin Ke after finding that there was no danger. At AOF's level, the accumulation of magic power is not important. What's more, the artifact fragments can only provide some larger wood element, which is negligible to him, so there is no need to infringe on Lin Ke's use of the artifact fragments. For AOF now, some experimental feedback is the key to his breakthrough. For example, the simple method of comparative experiment is more precious to AOF than a complete artifact. Chapter 65 Job Change and First Skill Position. Lin Ke meditated for a while and actually felt that he was about to break through to level 2. This made him a little happy. However, after 2 hours of hard work, his blood vessels could no longer eat, and he still did not break through. But maybe he would break through in 2 or 3 days. This made Lin Ke look forward to it. He opened his eyes. Little Lin Ke, if there is nothing else, I will go to meditate first. Aofu stood at a distance that was neither too far nor too close to scare Lin Ke, nor too close to Lin Ke to hear his voice. Teacher, I'm sorry. Lin Ke knew at a glance that Aofu must have thought of the comparative experiment method long ago, and then stood there waiting for him to finish meditating. Zio Lin Ke, your comparative experiment method has helped me a lot. It has given me new ideas for many experiments. Why apologize? Speaking of experiments, excitement flashed in Aofu's pure eyes. When your father comes back, I will go back to do some experiments. Maybe I can break through to the legendary level. Hearing this, Lin Ke couldn't help but feel happy for Aofu. If the teacher breaks through the legendary level, then I can walk sideways in Asen in the future. Ha ha ha. Aofu couldn't help laughing a few times after hearing this, and was quite happy. He was socially anxious and rarely laughed like this in front of outsiders. By the way, teacher, I should be almost level 2. Lin Ke also said a good news. So fast? Hearing Lin Ke's words, Aofu exclaimed, maybe you will reach the legendary level earlier than me? After saying that, Aofu smacked his lips, and after 2 seconds, he was stunned and looked at Lin Ke twice. You know, he has been observing and experimenting for 1 or 200 years, and has not broken through to the 20th level of Starlight level, but he seemed to have realized something, after chatting with Lin Ke here. Reaching legendary earlier than me? Not impossible? If my disciple reaches legendary earlier than me, wouldn't it be embarrassing? But on second thought, Aofu remembered that none of his friends walked upright on 2 feet, except for Geros, the guy who was stupider than a fishman. How is it possible, teacher? Lin Ke laughed as a joke. He was only level 2, and his teacher was level 20. Breaking through legendary faster than his teacher? Too funny. One of the funniest jokes in Liu Huiyu. However, after laughing for a few times, Lin Ke still asked seriously, teacher, do you have any recommendations and suggestions for my first skill position? If he is lucky enough to reach level 20, he will have 10 skill positions. There are only 10 skill positions, each of which is crucial, and cannot be randomly matched. Hearing Lin Ke's words, Aofu seemed to be prepared, and was about to speak. At this time, the servant brought in Gila milk, which Lin Ke must drink every night for physical development. Lin Ke also realized that he had been sitting on a chair and chatting with Aofu standing on the balcony for a long time. Respecting teachers is indeed true. Lin Ke quickly invited Aof to sit in, then drank a large glass of milk in a few gulps, and waved away the servant. Aof sat in another larger armchair, and his stiff body relaxed after the servant left, and then he said, Lin Ke, you also know my profession about this. Lin Ke nodded. Truth researcher. The difference between this profession and scholar is that the focus is on research rather than learning. The occupational ratio is not just a few simple combinations, but also involves the issue of focus. For example, truth researcher needs to have 70% of the research tray, and the other 30% is allocated to learning, thinking and other trays. Scholar learns everything and can change his job to historian, biologist etc. And truth researcher only studies the truth. Speaking of this, we have to mention job change. Lin Ke learned from Aofu that if the job change is just an adjustment of the job ratio, for example, if the shield warrior job becomes the flying shield warrior, it may only need to increase the ratio of agility and reduce the ratio of shield defense. But if you want to change from a shield warrior to a sword warrior, you need to completely forget and tear apart the shield characteristics and replace them with the sword characteristics. The scholar becomes a truth researcher, just like the shield warrior becomes a flying shield warrior. It's just a change in the ratio. So Aofu actually wanted to ask Lin Ke if he wanted to change his job to become a truth researcher. Teacher, I will still maintain the scholar job for now. I still have a lot to learn, and I haven't reached the level of doing research myself. Lin Ke said. Aofu nodded slightly, and Lin Ke's answer was the same as he guessed. His disciple was not a person who was ambitious. Regarding the skill position, it is actually not fixed. Aofu began to talk about the skill position at this time. Lin Ke didn't think there was anything wrong with taking classes late at night. After all, it was normal for meditation to replace sleep. The king of their Gila kingdom was called Sleepless Majesty, who didn't sleep and practiced Taoism all night. Skills will also change after changing jobs. Of course, scholar and warrior, these two professions have always been the basis of all professions, and they are very adaptable after changing jobs. Aofu began to explain with a serious face. Lin Ke listened carefully, and the knowledge blood in his mind glowed slightly, helping him to better understand, remember, and apply the knowledge that Aofu said. In short, the change of skills will follow the characteristics of the profession. For example, the skill engraved on the first skill position of shield warrior is shield strike, holding a shield and using the shield to cover the body to hit the enemy. After changing to flying shield warrior, the skill may still be strike, but it becomes to fly the shield out to hit the enemy. Lin Ke suddenly understood after listening. You have two bloodlines. The first is for the scholar, and the second is best for the knight profession that your father has. Then you have to consider the coordination between the two. Aofu said, with a thoughtful look on his face. Looking at Lin Ke, I know that the first skill of the knight must be charge. My thinking is that the first skill of your scholar should be either a protection skill or a bonus skill for the charge. Lin Ke listened to Aofu's step-by-step explanation of his plan and ideas, and suddenly felt much clearer. Originally, he thought that the first skill could be a lightning strike to the enemy, or it could be a servant of truth that could help him in his daily life. But now, after listening to Aofu's explanation, he also began to think, protection? Or an attack bonus? His leader bloodline just happened to be able to be employed in the knight profession. Even if he met a better one in the future, the knight profession could also be transferred to it, which is not much different from the warrior. The knight is actually a melee profession, not a long-range attack turret profession like a magician. But the mobility of the knight is much stronger than that of the warrior. A scholar can use various attacks to stop a warrior from getting close. But when a knight charges, the power is very huge. So, which type can better match the knight's charge skill? Chapter 66 Air Pressure and Streamlining. Teacher, I want protection and attack bonus. After thinking for a while, Lin Ke came up with the answer. As soon as he said this, Aofu frowned. Sometimes it's like this. Children don't know how to make choices in certain situations, and always want to have everything. But this is the time for parents, teachers and others to play their role. They have to teach children some basic common sense theorems. Lin Ke, you have to know that the effect of lucky flowers in calming the mind and helping sleep is remarkable, but it can't make people energetic. Aofu said earnestly. This sentence is a common saying of Nasang, and the general meaning should be translated as you can't have your cake and eat it too. Lin Ke nodded. Teacher, I know. However, these common sayings often cannot represent physics, let alone the truth itself. Common sayings and truths are only useful in certain specific situations, and they are often misleading in other situations. For example, you can't have your cake and eat it too, which teaches people not to be too greedy and to make choices. But sometimes, when you can do better and have the best of both worlds, it would be a pity to give up one side. You can't have your cake and eat it too. That's because the fishing nets are not strong enough. If you change it to barbed wire, you might be able to have both. If you change it to titanium alloy or diamond, you might be able to have both. If you change it to a legendary enchanted mithril gold net, you can have both fish and dragons. Lin Ke still wants to have both. Offense and defense, don't give up. It's good that you know. Aofu nodded. He also remembered that his disciple was not a real child, at least from the perspective of intelligence. But, however, Aofu just agreed with Lin Ke and smiled bitterly. I prepared for you. One is the attack bonus inertial impact, and the other is resist shield. Both of these use the study of strength. Aofu did study many skills at the beginning, but he engraved the most suitable skills in the skill slot, and the others all became his private collection. According to Lin Ke's understanding, professionals can study both magic and skills at the same time, and skills can be engraved in the skill slot. Magic is like the swords of the previous life. Everyone knows how to make them, and they can make them if conditions permit. So if you want to use lightning or fireball, others will know what magic you are going to release as soon as the element move. But skills are like special guns and ammunition. Generally, others don't know the skills you have researched. Of course, some professionals have shown their skills in front of outsiders, so they are not unique secrets. So many people prefer to study skills rather than magic, and therefore they have developed many skills. But everyone has limited skill slots, so they will only choose the appropriate skills to be engraved on the skill slots. Just like Aofu, his skill slots are all full, but there are still many skills that are not engraved, and they will release those skills when they are needed. Releasing ordinary skills that you have researched is the same as releasing magic, which consumes more and takes longer, and is not as good as the speed and little consumption of skill slots that are almost instantaneous. In fact, in addition to thunder and lightning, what I have studied the most is the study of strength. Aofu explained, looking at Lin Ke. Or do you have any ideas? Let's think about it together. Lin Ke always surprises him, which is what Aofu has discovered during this period of time. Sure enough, after listening to AOF's inertial impact and resistance shield, Lin Ke directly said, "Teacher, have you heard of air pressure and streamline?" Lin Ke was also thinking at this time that he must let AOF teach him the other two skills later. Inertial impact. Can't it be developed into the world-destroying mountain resistance shield in the future? As for the resistance shield, AOF had told him before that the resistance force is actually very similar to gravity and repulsion. Damn, this is the predecessor of Shinra Tensei. Lin Ke was almost tempted, but fortunately he restrained himself. He can learn these later, and he can even study them himself. And now, it's better to choose the most suitable one. Air pressure? Streamlined? What is this? AOF was puzzled. Lin Ke smiled and began to make up stories. I discovered this when I was a child. Then after a long talk and explanation about how he discovered air pressure and streamline, Lin Ke continued, "So, I named them air pressure and streamline." Well, you mean, someone runs too fast and passes in front of you, and you feel the air behind you pressing you to the other side. AOF's astonished expression was like a bride with a dead heart, or a speechless student. In short, it was very strange. As for the streamlined body, you said that you experimented with the best shape by pointing your hands at the water flow in the water and using your fingers to make different shapes. AOF felt that he had lived for hundreds of years, but was not as good as a child. Air pressure. Streamline. This is air pressure. This is streamline? Exclamation mark. Yes. Why didn't he think of it? He is a star level professional. It's really embarrassing. AOF began to doubt himself. Yes, teacher. For example, in the kitchen downstairs, when the wind outside blows fast and the air pressure is low, there is a lot of smoke in the room and the air pressure is high, so the black smoke can be easily pressed out by the chimney and windows. Lin Ke gave another example of air pressure. Aofu listened to Lin Ke's example, and there was a flash of lightning in his eyes, and even a hissing sound. His brain was thinking, recalling, and simulating the situation that Lin Ke said quickly. After a while, the lightning in Aofu's eyes gradually disappeared, and he sighed instead of praising. Lin Ke was stunned. What's wrong, teacher? Aofu smiled and shook his head. I was thinking, if I had met Geros and Feudal 200 years earlier, and let them give birth to you, maybe I would be a legend now. Lin Ke didn't know whether to laugh or cry. At that time, their parents, my grandparents who had long passed away, might not have been born. Geros was only in his 30s, and Feudal was only in his 20s. Both of them were very young. Geros only met AOF by chance. Otherwise, with his status as a small noble in the countryside of Nassau, he would not even be able to touch the corner of AOF's clothes. Haha, Zyro Lin Ke, since you already have an idea, I will teach you how to engrave skills in the skill position tomorrow. AOF smiled and touched Lin Ke's head. What he just said was just a joke. After Lin Ke gradually opened his heart, he sometimes learned to be humorous. Although Lin Ke didn't think it was funny. Gag. Suddenly, there was a loud bird call next to him. It was Zyro Zingan calling. It seemed that he was dissatisfied with being woken up by Lin Ke and others. Zyro Lin Ke, then you go to sleep. AOF smiled kindly. The dark and windy night was a good time for experiments. He was going to verify many things that Lin Ke said later. If those experiments were successful, perhaps he would get a certain amount of learning feedback. Because this was Lin Ke's discovery, just like what Lin Ke taught him. The feedback of truth researcher on learning is not as good as that on research, and the feedback is very small. However, accumulating little by little and working hard are exactly what AOF has been doing. Otherwise he would not have become a star level. Good night, teacher. Lin Ke bowed and sent AOF away, and then coaxed the weak little Lucky to sleep. Sensing the increasingly powerful vitality in the little Lucky body, Lin Ke also fell asleep at ease. Nothing happened all night. The next day, Lin Ke got up early and prepared to go to see the trial production of Azanan paper mill. However, at this moment, he suddenly remembered that he seemed to have forgotten something yesterday. Never mind, it's probably not an important matter. Lin Ke hurried downstairs, called 2 guards and left, and didn't care about John, who was busy these 2 days. Of course, Lin Ke himself was also very busy, or everyone in the castle was busy, and Tower and Feudal were busy enjoying life. tea, and snacks, and beautiful looks. The servants were busy working to support the family, and Lin Ke was busy getting rich and strong. So you see, the rich and the poor are all busy. No one is idle. Everyone is the same. But when he came to the corridor, he saw a hunchbacked figure with sleepy eyes. Master Lin Ke. The figure shouted in surprise when he saw Lin Ke and limped over. It was the hunchbacked Granny Zase. Oh right. I almost forgot. Yesterday he arranged for Granny Zase to come to the castle. Master, this old woman rested in the guest room for a night and broke a total of 5 black stones in the toilet, an elm bed frame and 3 layers of goose down quilts. Behind Granny Zase was the leader of the first group of the guard team with a dark face. Lin Ke raised his eyebrows when he heard this and looked at Granny Zase. Are you going to make gunpowder? You broke the saltpeter in the toilet and the sawdust of the bed frame. How do you know? Although Granny Zase didn't know gunpowder and saltpeter, she understood what Lin Ke meant. After all, she also heard Lin Ke talk about gunpowder yesterday. Good guy, it really is gunpowder. Where does your sulfur come from? It's another thing that doesn't smell very nice. Lin Ke has become interested in Grandma's ice. What else can you do? Let's talk while we walk. Yeah. Grandma's ice smiled brightly. Her eyes narrowed into slits, and like the wrinkles around them, they looked like crisscrossing grooves. Chapter 67. Excellent chemist. Lin Ke walked in front, and Granny Zase lagged behind Lin Ke by 2 steps, behaving like an ordinary servant over 100 years old. Granny Zase didn't seem to be so naive and ignorant of the world. At least she knew to lag behind Lin Ke. Master Lin Ke, Granny Zase has made a lot of magic. Please don't chase me away. Granny Zase tried her best to sell behind Lin Ke, and she bent down so much that Lin Ke could only see her hunchback when he turned around. What kind of magic is it? Lin Ke was still a little curious. There are several ways to discover the formula of gunpowder. It depends on whether Granny Zase discovered it accidentally or discovered it naturally through a lot of research. If it was an accidental discovery, it might not prove anything. If it was a discovery with research and purpose, it would be rare. This ability of exploration and research is in line with scientific logic. Magic? Mine is much more powerful than magic. Granny Zase immediately put her hands on her hips and refuted when she heard Lin Ke's tone. I don't know who has been saying that gunpowder is magic, and now he says it is stronger than magic. Lin Ke rolled his eyes inwardly. I can restore a rusty iron sword to its original appearance, and I can also make a normal iron sword rust quickly, the kind that can be smashed with one fist. Granny Zase answered proudly, her steps floating a little. The leader of the first group of the guard team behind her laughed out loud and couldn't help but teasing. You are more powerful than the professional master. However, Lin Ke suddenly stopped and looked back at Granny Zase with a surprised face. You discovered acid and alkali? And oxidation? Granny Zase was stunned. What sword and flower? She didn't understand what Lin Ke said. Lin Ke's pronunciation sounded very similar to the acid sword and flower cultivation in the common language of Nasang, so Granny Zase certainly didn't understand. That's right. How did you do it? Lin Ke rubbed his eyebrows. Many words were not here. In the future development of chemistry, he might have to consider using alternative words or creating his own words. Hey, that's awesome, isn't it? Granny Zase didn't answer Lin Ke's words, but said, Master Lin Ke, you believe me, right? Can you go to the factory to work for me? Go to the factory to work as a slave? Wishful thinking. Lin Ke knew at once that Granny Zase might be the kind of person who has a certain interest in chemistry and has already researched some things. This kind of talent is suitable for being exploited in the laboratory, no, working. Granny Zase, you can't go to the paper mill. Lin Ke shook his head at first, and when Granny Zase looked sad, he said, but I have a job with a higher salary. Do you want to do it? Higher salary? Granny Zase's eyes lit up when she heard it. She knew that salary actually meant silver coins and copper coins, or salary was compensation. Can you give me more copper coins? Then can you give me 3 silver coins and 5, no, 2 copper coins a month? Granny Zase made a very excessive request and looked at Lin Ke's eyes carefully, fearing that Lin Ke would refuse her because of this excessive request. What kind of life have you been through to be so cautious, my dear chemist? Lin Ke was helpless. He just nodded gently and continued to move forward. Before the interview, he had checked the background of Granny's essay. There was no child in her family, but there were some children helping her to plow the fields. And Granny's essay often made some small gadgets that she called magic, which were welcomed by the villagers. In general, this person is trustworthy. In this way, Lin Ke could tell her more beyond the scope content. After all, many chemical reactions are not like other things, which can be explained by precocity. Many chemical reactions have not even been seen in reality. How can you be precocious? After all, many substances in the two worlds exist in different places. The periodic table of element may also be different, and animals and plants are even more so. To verify some things, a lot of chemical experiments must be done, and chemical experiments require test tubes. Lin Ke thought about it and walked a little faster. Although Granny's essay is more than 100 years old, her body is like a young person in her 60s, and she can keep up with Lin Ke. After a while, Lin Ke went to the paper mill to arrange some work, and the paper mill began to operate. Granny's essay and the leader of the first group of the guard team followed behind Lin Ke to watch. The paper mill is called a factory, but it is actually a small workshop. When the door is opened, there are 5 compartments, each of which is responsible for a step of paper making. The water outside is introduced from the ditch on the ground, and then led away from the ditch. However, the paper mill does not use a lot of bleaching agents and other chemical agents like in the previous life, so the pollution caused is minimal. What are they doing? Granny's essay widened her eyes with curiosity, and she just felt that their young master of Azanen was a little unreliable. Cooking an edible grass in a big pot? Could it be that the bard said that some noble children like to play house? Granny's essay was in a state of confusion. Why are you talking so much? The leader of the first group of the guard team next to him couldn't help but scold. Why does this old woman talk so much nonsense? It must be that Master Lin Ke said it was useful, otherwise he would have been driven out long ago. Questioning their young master and instructor? This is simply an outrageous opening of an outrageous door. Outrageous to the extreme, right? The team leader was angry. Just wait and see. Lin Ke motioned the two to stay calm and smiled. After a while, the first batch of dried paper was taken down and brought to Lin Ke for a view. Lin Ke stroked the rough, light yellow paper in his hand, nodded slightly, then looked up and said loudly, "Everyone continue. The servants will bring lunch at noon." There was no joy or anger in his voice. This paper is not bad, reaching the level when Lin Ke and AOF were experimenting, and can be used as writing paper. However, there was no surprise, so Lin Ke naturally wouldn't be very happy. It was just a trial production in a standard manner. It can only be said that it met expectations. Is this paper? When Granny's essay saw the paper in Lin Ke's hand, she immediately knew what this paper mill meant. Making paper. But, this is not the same as the manufacturing process Granny's essay knew. The paper she knew was made by a leather master who burned animal skins through multiple processes. It's not like that. More than 50 people made more than a dozen sheets in half an hour. There's still a lot you don't know. Lin Ke was relieved after seeing that the quality of the paper was okay. He waved to Granny's essay and the group leader. Let's go. Let's go to the next factory. Next, the glass factory. Lin Ke didn't expect the trial production of the paper mill to be so smooth. Perhaps he underestimated the importance the villagers attached to this job. When he taught the villagers the steps of paper making, everyone stared with wide eyes and tried hard to remember and listen. These students are not like the students in his previous life. They may not eat the taste of chewing it, and they think that knowledge is not as delicious as games. The villagers students here can learn knowledge, and they wish Lin Ke could teach them more. However, since the paper mill is so smooth, just produce it quickly. Lin Ke thought to himself. First, accumulate ordinary paper inventory for a period of time, and then produce fine paper, and then high quality paper and superb paper. Satisfy Azan Castle and Parrot City in the early stage. If the response is good, with certain guarantees, the paper can be sold to all parts of the Viscount Azanan. However, Lin Ke has not considered selling it nationwide or even in Assam. After all, a small viscountry does not have the power to control such a huge market. But the early sales volume is enough. As long as the pressure from debt can be alleviated, it will be good. It will be better if the debt can be fully repaid. When he arrived at the door of the paper mill, the person in charge Fuazan was standing at the door waiting for Lin Ke. The paper mill has only one door, and you can only go in and out through this door. There are sheets of paper drying outside. I'm very happy. It is not bad to be able to do this for the first time. Work hard. Also, remember to keep it confidential. The process and raw materials of the paper mill cannot be disclosed to anyone, including family members. After a month, everyone will get a salary. Lin Ke encouraged and warned the person in charge for a few words, and then left. The person in charge was Watson, a young man with blonde hair, honest and simple, and always had a simple face. After Lin Ke left, Watson returned to the paper mill with excitement. In the paper mill, workers of all ages looked out of their cubicles at him. They were all a little nervous. Today was the first day, and they were afraid that the young master would go back on his word. After all, such an easy job could earn them a salary of 5 silver coins, which was something they had never dared to think of before, as they had only worked for free. At this moment, Watson's excitement could no longer be suppressed, and he waved his strong right arm vigorously. Young Master Lin Ke asked us to produce vigorously. He is very happy. No. He is very happy. The workers cheered immediately, and then worked even harder. It seems that the young master is not playing around. The young master really wants to do it. But the young master asked us to keep it a secret. Watson smiled honestly, and did not forget to remind them, and told them Lin Ke's warning. Everyone agreed happily. After they learned this magical method of making paper, they were afraid that others would snatch it away. This is the unique skill of our young master as an N. If other noble masters also want to do it, they will definitely let the noble's own people do it. Then wouldn't their jobs be ruined? The villagers of Azan and village the 5th of may be simple, but simple and cunning are not antonyms. They can tell right from wrong. Chapter 68 New Research Disciplines. Why can paper be made like this? What color will this paper be if it burns? Master Lin Ke, what kind of paper will be made if those grasses and sheepskins are boiled together? From the paper mill to the glass factory, which is only a few dozen meters away, Granny Zase is like a 104-year-old wrinkled fly, buzzing in Lin Ke's ears. However, after approaching the glass factory, Granny Zase gradually became speechless. Hot. Extremely hot. As they approached the glass factory, waves of heat hit them. It is now the month of flowing fire, and Lin Ke's birthday is July 27th. Although the flowing fire month here is July, August, September, and March, it does not prevent the weather from getting hot. Of course, the heat in the glass factory has nothing to do with the weather, but with the fire in it. Wait for me here. Lin Ke glanced at the team leader of the first group, and then gestured to Granny Zase, come with me. Yes, master. The team leader of the first group knew that the level 20 super professional did not like crowds. So he stopped tactfully and was several meters away from the glass factory. But he couldn't help but look at Granny Zase a few more times, curious about what this crazy woman liked so much by Master Lin Ke. Was it because of those inexplicable gadgets? It's not impossible. Then I'll try to get some too. The leader of a group fell into deep thought. Lin Ke brought Granny Zase to the gate of the glass factory and shouted to the inside, teacher, I brought an interesting person. He had to tell Aofu that he brought someone, otherwise Aofu, who was socially anxious, would be scared when he suddenly saw Granny Zase. Come in. Aofu's old voice sounded, accompanied by a slightly smaller voice. I thought you were the only one. Single old straight manners indeed. Lin Ke smiled and shook his head, then took Granny Zase in. The interior of the glass factory is similar to that of a paper mill. The difference is that there is no canal. The manufacture of glass is actually very complicated, not just firing silica. However, Lin Ke did not plan to make the final industrial glass in the first step. He didn't have the time to study it, and the industrial heritage here was not that strong. This also includes paper making. Lin Ke only needs to start, then build a strong scientific research atmosphere, set up a few substantial awards, and naturally some geniuses will continue to produce according to Lin Ke's ideas. Many times, we are not afraid of the difficulty of the process, but we are afraid of having no goals and directions. As soon as Lin Ke came in, He saw the piles of glass and river sand, as well as Aofu controlling the blazing flames in the center. This magic is so cool, I have to learn it. Lin Ke looked at Aofu, who was covered in flames, even his eyes, his mouth, and nose, but his hair and clothes were not affected. He looked like a fire god. Little Lin Ke, very successful. Aofu smiled when he saw Lin Ke, but his expression froze when he saw Grandma Zisei, and he seemed a little embarrassed. Social phobia, don't like socializing with strangers. Lin Ke pretended not to see it, and said to Aofu, teacher, the paper mill is also going well. It would be best if the glass factory can also be put into production. However, we should make some other tools first. Okay. Aofu had no objection to Lin Ke's arrangement. He liked his apprentice very much. He not only loved learning but also research. He was not like the reckless man like Geros, nor was he the stupid fish like idealist. But, very good, very good. In addition, this is Granny Zisei, a talent I discovered. After Lin Ke finished talking about the glass, he pointed at Granny Zisei. At this time, Granny Zisei knelt on the ground. The hunchback behind her made her look like an angry wrinkled cat. She groaned, chanted, and prayed, Supreme God of Fire, thank you for answering my prayers. Although I know I'm praying to the goddess of wealth, it doesn't matter. Yes, my wish is to have 3 silver coins and zeros fall from the sky every day. At this point, Granny Zisei, who was crawling on the ground, gritted her teeth, and seemed to be determined to be a little more ruthless. 05. It would be great if 3 silver coins and 05 copper coins fell. This. Lin Ke was stunned by this. What is this operation? Why is it that I feel so distressed? Aofu over there also saw this kind of person for the first time, but he didn't see many people in the first place. Granny Zisei, get up. This is my teacher Aofu, not the god of fire. Lin Ke suddenly felt that Granny Zisei's few pious prayers. Capitalists would feel heartbroken and blame themselves to tears after reading them. How about giving her 2 more copper coins? Granny Zisei raised her head and looked at Lin Ke blankly. Master Lin Ke's teacher is a god. In his opinion, Aofu, who was covered in flames and holding a magic wand, seemed to be standing in a world of fire, was too terrifying. My teacher is much more powerful than a god. Lin Ke shook his head with a smile and then said, quickly take out the gunpowder, that is, your bag of explosive flames, and show it to my teacher. That's the explosive fire. Granny Zisei stood up and corrected. When she talked about her things, her eyes suddenly lit up. Granny Zisei took out a bag of gunpowder from her bosom and opened it. Your Majesty the God of Fire Aofu, this is it. Aofu's attention was immediately attracted, and he did not correct Granny Zisei's address. A bag of black powder. Lin Ke immediately signaled Granny Zisei with his eyes. Granny Zisei got Lin Ke's signal, nodded seriously, and then swish-packed the gunpowder bag and threw it towards Aofu at lightning speed. What the hell? What are you doing? Lin Ke's eyes widened, and he couldn't help but swear, but it was too late to stop. Granny Zisei was about to say, didn't you signal me with your eyes to throw it over? Then there was a sound. Boom. Although the pack of gunpowder was small, the amount inside was not small, and it seemed that the proportion was quite good. At least the sound was very loud. A wave of air blew by. Fortunately, this pack of gunpowder made a loud sound, but had little power. A few seconds later, Lin Ke put down his hands that were covering his ears and climbed up from the ground. Just now, he was afraid that the power of the gunpowder was too strong, so he lay down directly, but after getting up, he found that there was a magic shield in front of him that helped him block most of the power of the gunpowder explosion. And looking at the side, at this time, Granny Zisei's body was floating in the air, and thick electric lights surrounded her, like purple chains locking her. It was Aofu. Aofu controlled Granny Zisei. Granny Zisei couldn't move, and the electric current seemed to be about to penetrate her body in the next moment. Teacher, she didn't mean it. Lin Ke spoke up quickly. He knew that Granny Zisei didn't mean it. After all, if Granny Zisei was an assassin, there would be too many opportunities to kill him. And he was a child of a small country noble. There were many ways to kill him, and there was no need to do it in front of a level 20 strong man. Just now, Granny Zase completely misunderstood Lin Ke's eyes. Little Lin Ke, this is. The murderous intent in Aofu's eyes faded and turned into confusion. Just now he said he would bring someone to see him, but who knew that he would use powerful magic as soon as they met? He was not afraid. After all, although the magic was powerful, it was only powerful for ordinary people. He was just afraid that his disciples would be hurt. After all, Lin Ke didn't have a good means of protection. Granny Zase, in the future Lin Ke wanted to tell Granny Zase to act according to the situation, but he remembered that he had just signaled Granny Zase with his eyes, but Granny Zase didn't understand. Forget it. Seeing that Granny Zase was fine, Lin Ke looked at AOF and said bluntly, "Teacher, I have found a new research direction. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels." Chapter 69. Finally, Orf joins. After the explanation, Aofu understood what Lin Ke meant. A new research direction. Chemistry. Through the reaction between substances, to explore the properties of substances. According to Lin Ke, this kind of thing should also be called chemistry in this world, the study of material changes. Very interesting. Aofu was suddenly inspired and couldn't wait to try the chemistry that Lin Ke talked about. So that's how it is. Granny Zase didn't get angry after being put down by Aofu, but was immediately immersed in the chemistry that Lin Ke talked about. Yes, it turns out that there are so many things that can be done. She thought of herself, all these years, at most, she just made some powders to burn or boil, and then made her own so-called magic. Unexpectedly, I didn't expect that there are so many chemical reactions that can be done. And it can also be predicted! Exclamation mark. Equations? Exclamation mark. So, teacher, I plan to transform that small plane into a special laboratory. After Lin Ke finished explaining, Aofu knew what Lin Ke meant. Little Lin Ke, you are determined to tie me to your family. Aofu smiled helplessly. Granny Zase was confused and didn't understand the two people's riddles. Lin Ke smiled and said, "Teacher, it would be great to do research peacefully in Aznan." He and AOF were not playing dumb. Before, the Black Mountain lady from the pet shop gave him a small plane with a large mine inside. He and AOF had been in there before. The mine had been mined a little before, but there was also a lot of iron ore left. But when Lin Ke saw this small plane, the first thing he thought of was not the mine, but its concealment. This small plane is suitable for that kind of research laboratory, just like AOF's plane. The only problem now is that it is a waste to leave the iron ore like this. It is better to mine it all in a short time, and then it can be transformed into a secret laboratory. However, mining requires manpower, such as slaves, various tools, and enough time. But the most important thing now is that there is not so much time. And even if there is no time, AOF will not be able to carve a teleportation array, which means that the plane can only be entered and exited through the secret key given to Lin Ke by Ms. Black Mountain. At that time, the slaves will have to be controlled by Lin Ke one by one when they enter and exit. Wouldn't that be exhausting? Nothing can be done. It just so happens that AOF said that the two teleportation arrays in his own plane have not been used. AOF is usually alone, and he only needs a secret key to go in and out, so the array disks of his own plane are left unused. Then Lin Ke set his eyes on it. The array disk of the teleportation array. Isn't it enough to put one in Azan Castle and one in the iron ore space? In this way, the slaves can go to AOF's own plane through Azan, and then go to the iron, or to mine through AOF's own plane. Perfect. But in this way, AOF is completely tied to the chariot of the Azan family, and can't get off. After all, both teleportation arrays belong to Azan. Unless the teleportation arrays are destroyed, AOF's own plane will be exposed to Azan's vision in the future. Teacher, you have been lonely for hundreds of years, why not settle down? At this time, Lin Ke sighed. On the one hand, he really hoped that AOF could stand behind him, so that he would have protection when he was still young. On the other hand, seeing that AOF was alone, Lin Ke didn't want AOF to go back to staring at a lightning bolt in a daze after these few months. He was hundreds of years old, with no family behind him and no inheritance. The only connection with humans was the materialistic school, and it was not a particularly close one. Perhaps if it weren't for Garros, a friend he met by accident, AOF might have died quietly in his own plane in the process of pursuing truth and legend. You know, staring at lightning in a daze can create a legend? Lin Ke didn't believe it. AOF was silent after hearing what Lin Ke said. Is he bound to the family of Garros, the reckless man? In fact, every time he came out of his own plane to communicate with the materialistic school and fight with the idealistic school, there were nobles who invited him to join. He is a powerful existence of level 19. Even His Majesty Wumian of the Kingdom of Gila has consulted him whether he wants to join the royal family with generous conditions. It's just that, no matter who it is, they actually value his strength, not the person himself. This made him, who has always been socially afraid, not agree. Socially afraid also means paying more attention to one's own feelings, and also means being more sensitive. But now, Aofu glanced at his disciple. With Xiao Lin Ke's talent, his future achievements will definitely not be lower than his. Even Garros is just a young man with great potential, and it is said that he is well known in the kingdom. Under the protection of the Kingdom of Gila, he will basically not encounter any major dangers. Therefore, his disciple wanted him to stay, and what he considered more was actually the friendship between the two of them. Thinking of this, Aofu couldn't help but loosen his grip on the thunder staff and said helplessly, "Okay, you convinced me." "Really, teacher?" Lin Ke was delighted and ecstatic when he heard the words. "Great. Teacher Aofu is willing to stay." "But," Aofu said again, "but, after your father comes back, I need to go to His Majesty Wumian and buy some materials from him." "No problem." Lin Ke agreed happily. The monk can run away, but the temple cannot. As long as Aofu is given a home, I believe Aofu will not want to go out casually. "What are you talking about?" Granny Zase was confused. "Nothing. I found a job for you, Granny Zase, and the 2 large plots of land in your family can be sold." Lin Ke was in a good mood. Granny Zase nodded first, then was surprised. "No, master, I still have to rely on that to make a living in the future." Lin Ke waved his hand. "No need. Are you willing to follow me? Become my follower?" Granny Zase has a strong ability to explore. Granny Zase told him on the road before that she just felt that charcoal burned longer than wood at first, and then wanted to prepare magic gunpowder, so she spent 6 years to make gunpowder by combining various powders. It was not accidental, but a conscious exploration. This kind of talent, even if they can't be employed as professionals, can be used as research talents, and being his followers is enough. Follower? Granny Zase stared blankly at Lin Ke under the firelight, and felt that Lin Ke, who originally had aristocratic temperament, became kind and lovely. "Then, can you give me an extra copper coin every month?" Granny Zase asked subconsciously, timidly. "1 copper coin?" Lin Ke laughed and shook his head. "If you do well, I will give you 5 silver coins every month." How many gold coins does he have in his pocket money every month? Anyway, several hundred. And his daily needs such as meals are not included. It can only be said that nobles are good. If they are dressed as civilian slaves, it will be miserable. 5. Granny Zase was shocked, and then big tears fell. "Woo woo. No one has ever been so good to me." Lin Ke was helpless. Why do these people cry all the time? Did they learn from the Nicks? He looked at Orf. "Teacher, let's go back to help Granny Zase to enlighten her, and come back later." Chapter 70 Another Self-Enlightenment? Aofu stopped releasing the flames, and flew back to the castle study with Lin Ke and Granny Zase. The poor study, only Garros could come before, but now Lin Ke brings all kinds of people here. Well, the best age for enlightenment is 6 years old, at least not more than 20 years old. Aofu sat on the chair in the study, with Lin Ke and Granny Zase in front of him. "I'm a part-time enlightenment teacher, only level 11, and it may cost you a lot to enlighten you, but it should be a good feedback for me." This is the first time he enlightened someone over 20 years old. Enlightenment will not fail for people under 20 years old, but you have to be prepared for failure. Aofu looked at Granny Zase and warned, if enlightenment fails, you will feel pain. Pain from the soul. Are you ready? Enlightenment also has a success rate. The more powerful the enlightenment teacher and the more talented the person is, the greater the success rate, and vice versa. Lin Ke also looked at Granny Zase. The pain of the soul is more painful than the pain of the body. You have to think about it. He couldn't make a decision for Granny Zase, because Granny Zase was his follower and always had autonomy, although she had not officially declared her allegiance yet. It hurts. Granny Zase hesitated. Seeing this, Lin Ke immediately said nonchalantly, yes, it hurts. But the general nobles charge 5,000 gold coins for enlightenment, but teacher Aofu gave us a discount of 1,000 gold coins. Of course, it's free for you to be enlightened now. Aofu has agreed to join the Azan family, so of course it's free. In the past, Aofu was just Lin Ke's teacher, and even brothers have to make clear the bill for enlightenment. Ah. So many gold coins. Granny Zase exclaimed, then jumped up in an instant. I want enlightenment. I'm not afraid of pain. She put her hands on her waist and looked at Lin Ke with a firm face. 5,000 gold coins was written all over her eyes. Lin Ke was speechless. I understand. He now understands Granny Zase and has a thorough understanding of her. Close your eyes. Of course, Aofu didn't say much and began to prepare for enlightenment. His magic power was rising, and Lin Ke clearly felt that Aofu's mental power extended to Granny Zase. It would only take a few seconds for Granny Zase to be enlightened. However, Aofu suddenly said, no, this is impossible. Aofu looked at Lin Ke in surprise. She is like Sophie. She has already enlightened herself. As he said that, Aofu couldn't help but look at Granny Zase a few more times, and it seems that she enlightened herself a long time ago. Lin Ke was also surprised. He looked at Granny Zase. Granny Zase, when did you enlighten yourself? Granny Zase was confused. What enlightenment? It seemed that she didn't understand what Lin Ke and the others said. Well, Lin Ke guessed that Granny Zase didn't know, so he said in a gentle tone, Granny Zase, you can enter a place called soul space. No wonder Granny Zase is so energetic at such an old age, 104 years old. It turns out that she has enlightened herself. It is said that the life expectancy of normal civilians in this era is roughly 50 to 60 years old, and at most 70 to 80 years old. Granny Zase is so long-lived and so energetic and healthy. Lin Ke should have discovered this doubt a long time ago. However, self-enlightenment is easy to deal with. The professional who never betrays is accounted for. While thinking, Lin Ke explained the meaning of self-enlightenment. So Granny Zase finally entered the soul space, and after a lecture, she knew how to take up a job. Of course, during this process, Granny Zase stupidly told Lin Ke and Aofu about her bloodline. It is a bloodline similar to focus enhancement, which can improve Granny Zase's concentration. It is a very ordinary bloodline. However, it is estimated that it will work well in chemical research. Granny Zase, there is a new profession called chemist. Do you want to take up a job? Lin Ke's voice was full of temptation. Professional. Can I become a professional? Granny Zase also knew what a professional meant. Some professional adults may become noble lords, and those powerful professional adults are even rarer than noble lords. Can I? Granny Zase was a little unconfident. Yes, you believe me. Lin Ke smiled. He had figured out the nature of the system. The role of the system is to intervene in reality to a certain extent in the dark. For example, Nix was like this before, and his escape route would not overlap with Lin Ke and the others. But because the system reminded Lin Ke and Lin Ke's voice to encourage the guards' morale reached Nix's ears, Nix ran towards Lin Ke's convoy. Sophie's self-enlightenment just happened to correspond to the singer profession that Lin Ke prepared for her. When Sophie successfully takes office, she will naturally become what the system said, a follower with great talent and who will never betray. And now, Granny Zase has already enlightened herself, so we just need to give her the corresponding chemist profession ratio. In this way, Granny Zase will also be a follower who will never betray in the future. This is the professional trait ratio I envisioned for you. Acid-base, neutralization, catalysis, reaction. Lin Ke began to tell Granny Zase about the chemist profession ratio he envisioned. Granny Zase listened carefully, with a strong interest in her eyes. Beside him, Aofu also listened to his disciple's explanation of his envisioned new profession and benefited a lot. Aofu also admired Lin Ke's intelligence. What he couldn't figure out the most was how the reckless man Geros and the silly and naive little girl Furlong gave birth to such a smart child. Well, the catalysis and reaction of thunder and lightning can also be considered. Lin Ke was still discussing with Granny Zase at this time. When Aofu heard the word thunder and lightning, his eyes moved, and he couldn't help but join the discussion. I think Aofu's professional knowledge is abundant. Granny Zase has rich practical experience, and Lin Ke has experience in chemistry in his previous life. So the three of them had a very enjoyable discussion this afternoon. The collision of sparks of thought is the most valuable for Aofu. Of course, Granny Zase still needs to explore the specific professional ratio herself. If she finds it out, she will be the first chemist in the world. He called Granny Zase, who was very excited, to try employment and meditation. Lin Ke picked up a feather pen and parchment and started drawing. He drew test tubes, beakers and other things, and the drawings were very three-dimensional. He learned sketching when he was a child. Aofu looked at the series of glassware he had painted, and was surprised again. Lin Ke, you painted very well. There are professional painters here, but most of them are things similar to oil paintings. And because of their low combat power, like writers, few people are employed, and they are considered logistics. However, some good paintings and books are sought after by many people, and even Aofu's own plane has some paintings and novels. Really? Are they all oil paintings? Lin Ke raised his eyebrows, always feeling that he had discovered a new way. There were many types of paintings in the previous life: sketches, watercolors, ancient style ink paintings. Well, although there is no professional trait ratio for painters, Lin Ke decided that he could try it himself when the time comes. Just treat it as his own part-time job, or sell the professional trait ratio. You know, the professional trait ratio of Nasang is something that countless forces are fighting for. Oil painting? Is that a type of painting? I'm not sure. Aofu didn't seem to know much about painting. Lin Ke simply didn't talk about this topic, but pointed at the parchment. Teacher, please help me use river sand to make these tools, which can be used for experiments. Lin Ke was a little excited. Teacher, do you remember the distilled liquor I told you about? Maybe we can make it this time. Alcohol. If it is made, it will be very useful. Okay. Aofu smiled. Well, I will go to the eldest lady to ask for some slaves first and prepare to mine iron ore. Teacher, you can just make 7 or 8 sets of these things. Lin Ke stood up and handed the parchment to Aofu, which was full of bottles and jars of glass. Aofu took it and flew out of the study window without saying much, just like a tool man. Lin Ke also went out and went straight to the eldest lady's room. He had to face the eldest lady again, and he hoped that he would not be embarrassed this time. Lin Ke always remembered that the eldest lady wanted to kill him when he was a child, and the correspondence between the eldest lady and Baron Puxin. However, the eldest lady's explanation at that time made him change his mind about the eldest lady. So far, the eldest lady can still be used. Chapter 71, Nick's Experience. Orf went back to the glass factory and made glassware by himself. Lin Ke went to find the eldest lady, Antoine. After finding the eldest lady, he would inspect the preparations of each group of the Azan troop. The castle has been very busy these days, which delayed some practice time. However, since few people came to his birthday, the castle did not prepare too much, and everything was kept simple. Knock, knock, knock. Lin Ke knocked on the door of the eldest lady's room. In the afternoon, Antoine and Feudal usually read books and tasted the afternoon tea that had not changed for thousands of years. Come in. Antoine's voice came out. Lin Ke pushed the door open and went in. As expected, Antoine was reading a book at the table on the balcony. There were 2 maids standing behind her and a little cheetah on her legs. Antoine took a bite of the sour fruit milk cake made of sour berries and wheat flour, and then fed a bite to the little cheetah, and gently stroked the little cheetah's fur with her other hand. In just a few days, the little cheetah has gone from being a predator cub roaring unyieldingly in an iron cage to a noble predator cub roaring sweetly on the lap of a noble lady. Lin Ke, what can I do for you? When Antova saw Lin Ke, a trace of joy flashed in the depths of her eyes, but no one saw it. Lin Ke was organizing her words, and immediately said, Auntie, I need all the slaves in the castle to help me mine an iron mine. Oh, iron mine? Antova raised her eyebrows. I remember there is no iron mine in Azan Castle. Where are you going to mine it? My teacher's place. Lin Ke answered easily. Anyway, no matter what, using off to block the bag is the best. Hearing Lin Ke's answer, Antova choked, and then asked again, how many gold coins do we need to pay? She thought that the iron mine was bought by Lin Ke. This is a gift from my teacher. Lin Ke shook his head. That's fine. Antova lost interest after hearing that. As long as she didn't waste money, it would be fine. She waved her hand and said, you can use slaves as you like, but be careful not to interfere with the normal operation of the castle. When using slaves, servants are usually needed to supervise. However, Lin Ke will send guards, so it will not affect the normal operation of the castle. After talking to Antova, Lin Ke went to arrange the slaves. Only that night did Antova and Lin Ke mention the money. Now even if he has an iron mine, Antova never mentioned selling it to save money to pay off debts. Thinking about it this way, this lady is quite responsible. She said not to let Lin Ke worry about it, so she didn't let Lin Ke worry about it. Oh, it would have been great if you didn't want to kill me at the beginning. Lin Ke shook his head and walked out. At this time, in the village, Nix was wearing a cloth dress and carrying a small bag. The bag contained his banknotes, some herbs and the Azan costume he took off. After all, in Azan's territory, wearing Azan's clothes was too eye-catching, which was not conducive to his continued experience of the characteristics of the doctor. Suddenly, Nix, who was walking, heard a sound coming from the front. Hurry, hurry. Little Yale was hit in the chest by the Gila bull. The horns of the bull have been pushed in. Andrew's leg, blood. The chest is full of blood. There was a commotion, accompanied by the screams and cries of several women. Nix frowned. His two furry ears stood up, and his body turned into a white shadow, and ran over there. As they got closer, 7 or 8 people were carrying a thin and small cow herd, apparently preparing to send him to the distant Parrot City to find that professional witch doctor for treatment. How is it possible? The body would be cold by the time it was sent there. Nix came not far from them and shouted softly, put him down. I am Dr. Nix. Those rough-handed and rough-footed men suddenly stopped when they heard the words. Doctor? Doctor? This is the doctor who is as good as a professional. Quick, quick, quick. Show him. Wow, honorable doctor, save my son. These people were in a mess and hurriedly brought the cow herd over. The villagers heard that there was a doctor from Azan Castle wandering around 5 villages to treat patients. Nix opened his package and took out 4 or 5 kinds of medicinal herbs that he had been preparing. He first turned his hands into after images and tore off the clothes on the cowherd's chest and cleared some grass, stones and the like. Then, he poured a bottle of sour fruit wine on the child's chest. The unconscious child groaned in pain. Everyone's heart tightened. This is a 6-year-old child. Nix frowned and said nothing. The child was seriously injured, and the wound on his chest was almost pierced. He had collected a lot of useful herbs during this period, such as 7 or 8 kinds of hemostatics and many kinds of painkillers. But now, hemostatics and painkillers alone are definitely not enough. What should I do? What should I do? Nix's nose twitched quickly, and he looked at the chest that was bleeding in front of him, and he was secretly anxious. By the way, Mr. Lin Ke said that the medicinal properties of herbs can be enhanced. The herbs that originally stopped bleeding may become more effective after being combined with other herbs. But it may also become poison. Some highly toxic things combined together become tonics and life-saving medicines. Some non-toxic things combined will become highly toxic. Nix has long wanted to prepare some medicines by himself, and he has several ideas for herbal preparations in his mind. But he dare not. It's very simple. Everyone knows that there is a rabbit doctor from Azan Castle. If he kills someone, it will embarrass Mr. Lin Ke, and he himself may be beaten to death. But, doctor, save my child. A woman knelt on the ground, crying heartbreakingly. A man next to her pulled her, fearing that she would come over and affect Nix's operation. Don't make a fuss. The rabbit doctor is the young master's man. Trust him. The man next to him shouted loudly. Yes, yes. Oh, how pitiful. The scene was in chaos. But Nix calmed down because of this. He remembered the first time he met Mr. Lin Ke. The dazzling and warm sunlight shone on his face through Lin Ke's brown hair. Warm but not scorching. Dazzling but not glaring. If the child died after using the new medicine to treat the child, Mr. Lin Ke's reputation might be ruined. If he didn't treat the child and said he was powerless, then the villagers wouldn't think much. They would just quickly send the child to Parrot City and pay a high price to find the professional witch doctor for treatment. But Nix knew that the child would probably die from excessive blood loss on the way. Save or not save. Nix clenched his fists, frowned, and chewed a simple herb and applied it to the child's wound while thinking. Everyone was affected by Nix's serious and solemn expression, and their voices gradually became smaller. And Nix. In the end, Nix still thought of Lin Ke. Lin Ke saved him after his family was broken up and took him in. He had sworn. He, Nix, will defend Lin Ke's glory until the stars fall, the world collapses, the rules are destroyed, and he will never change until his death. Thank you for your recommendation votes, monthly tickets and rewards. Thank you so much. Chapter 72. Highly poisonous. Save. Nix gritted his teeth. If the child's treatment failed, Nix was willing to let him bear the consequences himself and try not to damage Lin Ke's reputation. He didn't want to see life disappear in front of him. Sorrel, purple flying flower, yellow grapevine. Well, maybe add a little lucky flower. Nix turned out the things in the package one by one. Some of them were broken and crushed by hand, and some were chewed quickly with his mouth. Finally, a pool of dark green medicinal mud was formed. Nix took a deep breath and smeared the medicinal mud on the child's chest. Not long after, a magical scene appeared. The blood in the child's chest stopped oozing out, and even the child's expression was not so painful. The originally pale face gradually regained its rosy color. The effect was immediate. Alive. Alive. Woo woo woo. Rabbit doctor. Thank you, rabbit doctor. Your help is more dazzling than the stars in the sky. You must be a powerful professional. Wait. Doctor, what's wrong with you? Everyone was cheering when they saw Nix suddenly take a few steps back, then fall straight back and fall to the ground. Nix's originally pure white hair suddenly turned extremely black from his mouth, and this black color was still spreading to his whole body. Loose grass. It's loose grass. A sharp-eyed man pointed at the black grass that fell on the ground. Everyone exclaimed. Loose grass. This is the most poisonous grass. Someone once accidentally touched this grass on the road and sneezed a few hours later because the hand that touched the loose grass touched his lips, and then the person was poisoned to death. The poison of loose grass, also known as the gaze of the god of death, is extremely terrifying. Everyone then discovered that the mud applied on the child's chest contained the mud of loose grass chewed by the rabbit doctor. Yale. My little Yale. The child's mother cried out in pain, broke free from the man's restraints, and came to the child. Her son's chest was smeared with sorrel. Injured and poisoned. He will definitely die. And a man who seemed to be the child's father was furious in an instant, picked up a stone from the ground, and wanted to throw it at Nix. Despicable rabbit man. You actually want to poison my little Yale. The man raised the stone high and aimed it at Nix's head. They didn't seem to check the condition of their children carefully, but subconsciously thought that Nix wanted to poison their children. Don't be excited. Put it down quickly. Yes. That's the young master's man. Let's think about how to say that this rabbit doctor was poisoned to death here. If young master Lin Ke gets angry, our village will be gone. Several men hurriedly dissuaded him. This rabbit doctor was the young master's man. What if he was killed and the anger was directed at their village? In the face of such a matter of life and death, the death of little Yale was not important to these people. They were even worried now, worried that Lin Ke would think that they had poisoned a rabbit doctor. I don't care. At worst, I'll kill the rabbit and then commit suicide. The man listened to his wife's crying and got angry. The other people tried to dissuade him. However, at this moment, the child lying on the ground suddenly groaned, his throat hoarse. "Mom. Mom. Who's calling me? Woo woo woo." The woman who was originally crying seemed to have heard it and was stunned. "Little Yale? Little Yale?" She couldn't believe it, thinking that what she heard was an illusion. "Mom. Mom. It hurts." The child's eyes opened a crack and saw the woman kneeling next to him. The woman was immediately ecstatic, regardless of the tears on her face, and shouted, "Little Yale is alive. Little Yale is alive." The people around were originally far away from the child because they were afraid of being contaminated by the poison of the sorrel. However, after hearing the woman's words, the whole scene was still quiet, and then all eyes looked at the little Yale on the ground. Little Yale's face was ruddy, and not only was there no bleeding on his chest, but it seemed to be healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Everyone was stunned. Only Yale's parents surrounded little Yale. In the soul space. In Nix's soul space, the bloodline is a stone pillar with some patterns on it. How did I get here? Nix was confused. However, at this moment, the stone pillar in front of him, that represents his bloodline, suddenly changed. A black streak spread upward from the bottom of the stone pillar, at a very fast speed, like a drop of ink dissolved in clear water. The stone pillar representing the bloodline is very high, but the pattern on it only reaches the bottom, which means that Nix still has a lot of room for growth. However, the black streak spreads too fast. This stone pillar is actually his soul. What's wrong? Nix was startled, and ran over, and touched it with his furry hands. Poison. Tray. Poison. The trays of scholars are being defeated by the poison tray one after another, just like bubbles that have been punctured and dissipated. Research. Exploration. One by one, the trays are dissipating in the soul. This means that Nix's understanding of the tray of poison is getting deeper and deeper, and even squeezed out the tray of scholar. There are some unknown changes. Is this a job change? Exclamation mark. How can it be a poison tray? Nix panicked. It's too obvious. He has never tasted poison, but this time he tasted the sorrel and deeply realized the tray of poison. So, he has poison. But after Aofu's teaching, he knew. The first profession will be the main profession, which will receive a large amount of energy from the bloodline, and the subsequent secondary profession will only receive very little energy. If he inexplicably becomes this profession with the tray of poison, then he can't be a doctor. So he immediately closed his eyes and transferred all the insights of practicing medicine during this period to his bloodline. Healing, seeing a doctor, herbal medicine. A series of corresponding insights of the trays were recalled one by him, but his heart was still extremely anxious. Because whenever he had time, he would try to change his job from scholar to doctor, but he never succeeded. This time, sure enough, after these trays were input, they did not directly merge into one profession, but were scattered, and could not be integrated at all. What should I do? What should I do? Nix was anxious. The scholar tray had been completely broken by the poison tray, and only the learning tray was struggling to support it. Doctor. Doctor. Mr. Lin Ke made me experience what a doctor is. Did I experience it? Doctor. Doctor. Student. Why are they called doctor and student? Nix suddenly wondered, and then a flash of inspiration came to his mind. According to Lin Ke's explanation, student is a personal pronoun, such as young student and old student, and doctor means a person who has medical skills and performs medical treatment. However, now Nix found that perhaps there was another mystery in the name of this profession. He thought of the process of rescuing little Yale just now. In order to save Yale, he chose to take a risk. If it succeeds, it will be good. If it fails, he is willing to commit suicide so as not to affect Lin Ke's reputation. At that moment, the motivation of not wanting life to disappear in front of him gave him the courage to chew the sorrel. Doctors heal lives and make people live. This is what a doctor is. At the same time, he also chewed a highly poisonous grass, the sorghum. He collected this highly poisonous grass by chance, discovering that a seriously injured wild dog regained its vitality after eating several kinds of grass in the sorghum. He believes that this sorghum alone is highly poisonous, but it will have miraculous effects when combined with special herbs. such as enhancing the efficacy of medicine. Perhaps it was because he ate the sorghum alone that he suddenly understood the poison characteristic. After all, only by trying the poison with your own mouth can you understand it better. It's just from making up his mind to treat little Yale to his inexplicable arrival in the soul space, and now he understands the inner meaning of the word doctor. This made him suddenly understand the other two characteristics: mutual promotion and mutual restraint. Life first. These two characteristics, the young master said. It's just an uncertain tone. But now it seems. Try it. So, Nix closed his eyes and input all the insights of these two characteristics into his blood. Add poison and learning. The black on the stone pillar suddenly gathered towards Nix's palm. The patterns on the stone pillar all gathered together, and together with the black poison characteristics, they merged into a new light green pattern. In the eyes of a doctor, saving the lives in front of him is the most important thing. And Nix, who realized this, has a new profession taking shape in his blood. This is Doctor. Nix opened his eyes, full of excitement. Success. A blessing in disguise. He finally succeeded in becoming a doctor. But, it seems that it can be converted. This is, should it be called Poison Master? Chapter 73. A sudden sense of crisis. Right in the village, in full view of everyone, the black hair on Nix's body suddenly turned back to snow white. Then it turned pure black, and then snow white again. Finally, Nix's ears and eye circles turned black, and his left hand and right leg also turned black, and then he opened his eyes all of a sudden. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw more than a dozen people staring at him, which scared him. What's wrong? Nix jumped up in shock. The dozen people took several steps back. These people originally thought that Nix was dead, and were about to pick him up with wooden poles. After all, Nix was black all over at the time, and it was obvious that he was poisoned by the sorrel grass. They didn't dare to touch Nix. But as soon as they found the pole, Nix's body changed color, so they didn't dare to get close, and could only watch from the side. Lord Nix. A man shouted. They couldn't be sure whether Lord Nix was not dead, or had turned into a ghost. They were just a group of farmers, and had no idea what was going on. What happened? Did little Yale survive? Nix was more concerned about the safety of the cowherd boy. Sure enough, as soon as the words came out, those people realized that Nix was not dead. The man who asked at the beginning came forward and knelt down. Thank you, Lord Nix. Thank you, Lord Nix. Little Yale is alive. Alive. The man burst into tears, half grateful and half scared. He almost hit the rabbit doctor in front of him to death with a stone. It's okay. I hope he's okay. By the way, why did the Gira cow suddenly attack little Yale? Nix was relieved to hear that Yale was okay. He helped the man up from the ground and began to ask about the situation casually. Seeing that Nix was okay, everyone relaxed and did what they had to do, showing the good characteristics of rural people. That is, they would not know things they shouldn't know. For example, why did little Yale and Nix eat sorrel grass and not die? In their hearts, this was the ancestors of Azanan blessing them. In front of Nix, the man wiped his snot and tears from his face and replied, I don't know. Little Yale fell asleep without saying anything. My little flower is usually very well behaved. That little flower should be the name of the Gira cow they raised. Is that so? Nix quickly twitched his nose and suddenly felt a sense of crisis coming, which made him shudder all over, and his soft long ears stood up. AOF said that this is a kind of sixth sense belonging to professionals. The more powerful professionals are, the more sensitive they are to crisis. This is also the reason why legends rarely fall. Okay, then I'll go first. Remember to get more meat and vegetables for little Yale to eat. Nix was not sure what this sudden sense of crisis was, and whether it was accurate. But now that he has successfully taken office, he will go back to see Lin Ke. He didn't expect, and perhaps even Lin Ke didn't expect, that he would successfully take office as a doctor in just a short time. This also confirmed Lin Ke's guess, because the two most critical qualities really need practice to be realized. If Nix doesn't deeply understand what mutual growth and mutual restraint and life first are, perhaps it will take a long time for him to become a doctor. Bunny doctor, we still have some silver coins to give you. At this time, the man saw Nix was about to leave and hurriedly tried to keep him. "I'm leaving first. The young master is waiting for me." Nix waved his hand, took the package, and turned into a white shadow and ran out of the village. The man scratched his head in annoyance, but after a while, he seemed to have made up his mind and walked home. As in castle, Lin Ke put down the feather pen in his hand, stood up and looked into the distance. Just now, he suddenly felt a slight palpitation in his heart, but this feeling was so slight that he would have missed it if he hadn't reacted quickly. Sixth sense? Lin Ke muttered to himself. This is clearly the sixth sense. But this feeling is too weak, just like being bitten by a mosquito. There is no feeling at all. This kind of sixth sense warning is not like a warning of life and death crisis at all, but more like a warning of being pecked by a little luck. Too weak. If there is really a big crisis, at least Aofu will definitely feel it. Aofu didn't feel it, but he did, proving that this crisis is not a crisis for Aofu at all. Lin Ke just needs to stay under Aofu's wings. "Little Lin Ke, what are you doing?" At this time, Feudal suddenly pushed the door open and came in with a small plate in her hand. Since Feudal watched the performance, her mood has become very good, and she no longer thinks about Geros every day. Of course, this is also due to the assurance of Lin Ke and Aofu, who assured that Geros just came back late. Mother, spoilers are really bad. Lin Ke closed the parchment book on the table helplessly. This is the script he wrote, the script of Snake Ring. Feudal sneaked in all day to peek at the script, sometimes sending fruits, sometimes sending cakes. If you don't know, you might think it's a maid. Spoilers? Wishful thinking. What's the point? HMPH. Zyro Lin Ke is not likable at all. Feudal came up and pinched Lin Ke's face. Now Feudal has become a fan of the Ring of the Coiled Serpent. She wants to come to Lin Ke's place every day to see if he has saved any manuscripts and urge him to update. Just when Lin Ke wanted to say something, the voice of the servant came from outside the door. Young master, the eldest lady said that a distinguished guest is coming to visit and asked you to prepare." Distinguished guest? Lin Ke and Feudal looked at each other. "I'll go back and change my clothes." Feudal hurried out. She was wearing comfortable home clothes now. She must wear the most formal clothes to meet distinguished guests. Lin Ke was the same. He had to change into his Viscount Air clothes with very expensive materials and workmanship to show respect for the distinguished guests. Distinguished guest is a synonym for nobility, and the distinguished guests in Azanan are generally at least viscounts or above, otherwise they can only be regarded as guests. The two asked the servants to prepare clothes for them. Half an hour later, they were dressed. Fortunately, Lin Ke didn't need to put on makeup or fix her hair, otherwise it would take longer. John also stopped his work and followed Lin Ke step by step. When Butler Billy was not around, he was the butler of the castle. When they came to the reception room, Furlong also came behind. She opened the door of the reception room first, and Lin Ke went in with her. John and Furlong's personal maid followed one step behind and went in together. Lin Ke had not seen many nobles above the Viscount and didn't know who the nobles who came this time were. "That's really interesting. Well, they are here, Mr. Delin. He is the future heir of our Azanan and his mother, little Lin Ke. Come here quickly." The sound of conversation came from the reception room. Lin Ke noticed that the eldest lady in tower was obviously a little restrained. There were more than a dozen waiters standing in the spacious reception room, and there were several chairs on both sides of the window. And Tower sat on the right, with a complicated bun on her head, and a grand and luxurious red dress that was unique to Azanan. On the left, there was a child. The 8 or 9-year-old kid has blue hair combed back, his pupils are also light blue, and his clothes are blue and white, just like the waves formed by the waves. Noble. And look at his gorgeous clothes, the indifference and nobility contained in his pupils, his fair skin, and his blue hair and blue pupils. The eyes are the windows of the soul, and the soul reflects the brilliance of the soul. Features such as blue hair and blue pupils are the manifestation of strong blood. It seems that the title is relatively high. Lin Ke smiled. It is an honor to recommend Shang Sanjiang. Everyone, please give some money. Chapter 74, Come to collect debts. The reception room. The waiters on one side were dressed in bright red and black and white, while the other side was dressed in blue and white. Behind the honored guest Delin was a young man with silver hair, who looked like a butler. When Feudal and Lin Ke came in, the child named Delin did not speak, but looked at them indifferently, especially at Lin Ke. "Hello, distinguished guests." Feudal lifted one side of her skirt and bowed slightly. "Hello." Lin Ke also echoed her, with a calm face. The eldest lady smiled, and while maintaining her elegance and enthusiasm, she stood up and said to Lin Ke and Feudal, "Sister, come here quickly. Come, little Lin Ke, come and sit here with me." As the future heir, Lin Ke should sit next to Delin. However, Delin looked at Lin Ke's calm face and snorted softly. "I heard that you have been enlightened. What bloodline? Is it above the middle level?" The voice was full of arrogance and pride. Lin Ke sat on the chair, feeling disappointed. "Is this the level of the great nobles here? This noble kid is so rude. The so-called etiquette of the nobles, shouldn't they introduce themselves first? Who are you? You have so many questions. How can I tell you what my bloodline is? This is a secret, understand? However, for this kind of inexplicably arrogant kid, it is actually very easy to deal with." Lin Ke gave Delin a humble smile similar to a rabbit submitting to a tiger. "Yes, I'm enlightened." As if sensing Lin Ke's humble smile, Delin nodded maturely and asked again, "Well, not bad. What bloodline?" "Mr. Delin, shouldn't bloodline be a secret?" Lin Ke still smiled, but this time, the smile was that of a hedgehog submitting instead of a rabbit. Feeling Lin Ke's vigilance, Delin laughed out loud. "Ha ha ha, you're so funny, country bumpkin. You're really a country bumpkin, Uncle Feudal. These country bumpkins really don't know. Ha ha ha, you're so funny. It's their honor to make you happy." Butler Feudal raised his lips slightly and bowed. As soon as the words came out, the waiters around him changed color instantly. "Country bumpkin?" Exclamation mark. "Saying that their young master is a country bumpkin?" Exclamation mark. The waiters of Azanan had fire in their eyes, but they could only lower their heads and do nothing. They knew that Delin was a distinguished guest. If they messed around, it would be bad for young master Lin Ke. And Lin Ke still had a smile on his face, and first patted Feudal's hand next to him with her little hand. Feudal was frowning at first, but after being patted by Lin Ke, her brows relaxed, and she didn't say anything. Then, Lin Ke glanced at Antawa next to Feudal. Antawa was still smiling, but her eyes narrowed, and she exchanged glances with him. Lin Ke understood what the two men meant in an instant. "Mr. Delin, I wonder what noble place you come from?" Lin Ke asked softly, with a smile on his face like a stick testing a bunch of grass. He was testing to see if the grass was a straw bag or a fairy grass. It would be interesting if it was from a powerful viscount or a weaker earl. And Antoine should have been introduced as soon as she came in. If it was not clear, who would know who Delin was? Me. Humph. Delin's mouth seemed to be unable to make any sound. He kept making sounds with his nose, and could only hum, like a proud pig. At least that's what Lin Ke thought. "Uncle Feudal, tell them." Delin glanced at Lin Ke sideways, then turned his head away. The young butler Feudal behind him bowed slightly, and said in a gentle tone, "We are from the ancient Blue family." Blue family. Lin Ke's eyes flashed with a strange color when he heard this. This surname is ordinary, and it might be more famous if it was called by a different name. That is the Deep Blue family. The Deep Blue family located in the east. The people of this family have very ancient bloodlines. The powerful Deep Blue Grand Duke of the Gila Kingdom is the ruler of the Blue family. In addition, the Deep Blue Grand Duke is also a legend, with dozens of planes under his command. Both his personal strength and power are extremely powerful. So that's it. Lin Ke immediately understood something, and looked at Delin. "May I ask the purpose of your visit this time?" "Do you even need to ask?" Delin was quite hostile to Lin Ke, because Lin Ke did not show that kind of fearful attitude. You know, among the other country nobles he met, 80% of them were fearful, and the remaining 20% were the kind who knelt down and wanted to kiss his toes. "You owe me 280,000 gold coins. When will you pay it back?" Delin snorted. Lin Ke smiled and said, "I don't know when I owed you gold coins." Before Delin could speak, Antawa next to him changed her expression, but was stopped by Lin Ke with a subtle gesture. Delin didn't see Lin Ke's gesture, but widened his eyes and said in disbelief, "You want to default on your debt? You actually want to default on my father's debt? Do you know who my father is?" He also looked up at the butler next to him. The butler narrowed his eyes and looked at Lin Ke. No one can default on the debt of the Grand Duke of Deep Blue, not even the Great Majesty Wumian of the Kingdom of Gila. Lin Ke shook his head. "What you just said is that I owe you a debt, not that I owe the Grand Duke of Deep Blue, or that my father owes the Grand Duke of Deep Blue. Little guy, have you heard of word games? If I were a native country noble, I would definitely try to curry favor with you. Unfortunately, I come from a world where everyone is equal. Although it is only superficial equality, my personality will not be easily insulted unless I pay. And strength is supreme here. No matter whose son you are not your father." This little Delin seemed to react and didn't know what to say for a while. "Respected Master Lin Ke, we are here on behalf of the will of the Grand Duke." The butler did not show any expression, but just reminded Lin Ke softly, "There are only a few months left before the repayment date." Lin Ke nodded slightly and explained, "I don't mean to owe the money to the Grand Duke of Shenlin, but there are only a few months left." "But isn't Viscount Azan dead?" Little Delin shouted suddenly, seeming very surprised. "How can you pay the money if he is dead? You can just give me the castle and the farm. The true colors are exposed." Delin is still a child, and he immediately exposed the purpose of this trip. It is fake to come here to ask for money, and it is true to come here to embezzle the property in advance. When they heard the words Viscount Azan is dead, everyone's faces changed suddenly. Lin Ke narrowed his eyes. Viscount Azan was just trapped in another dimension, and he has not been declared dead. "You are so sure that he is dead? Does that mean this death is related to you, Master Delin? Or is this what the Deep Blue Grand Duke meant? He came to collect the debt before it was due, and bullied men and women, infringing on the interests of other nobles of the Gila Kingdom." Before the death was announced, Delin said that Garros was dead. If this problem was spread, it would be a big problem. If Garros was killed by Delin, it would be a big problem. Garros had the support of the Azan family behind him. Although Azan is just a small family in the countryside of the frontier, its network of relationships is complicated and deeply rooted in the local area. Moreover, if the Deep Blue Grand Duke collected the debt a few months in advance, it would obviously be a betrayal of the oath. This is unforgivable for a noble who puts honor above all else. Not to mention a few months in advance, even a few days in advance, is a breach of trust. And Delin is, after all, just the son of a Grand Duke. Not to mention how many descendants the Grand Duke has. There are probably more than a dozen sons alone. Add to that various collateral branches, illegitimate children, and so on, and there must be hundreds of people of the same age. As long as they are not the descendants that the Grand Duke of Deep Blue values. If Delin reveals that he killed a Viscount, he will probably be deposed. If he pretends to represent the Grand Duke of Deep Blue and damages the honor of the Deep Blue family, then Delin is finished. You are talking nonsense. Delin blushed when he heard Lin Ke's words. Lin Ke smiled slightly. "This is not what I said, it's what you said about Master Delin. You said that Viscount Azanan is dead, and you said you would come to take over Ra Castle. Humph, want to occupy the castle and the farm. Wishful thinking." Chapter 75. The competition between scholar and knight. In the reception room, Delin slapped the chair, walked in front of Lin Ke, pointed at Lin Ke and said, "You are talking nonsense." The atmosphere in the reception room suddenly became tense. Lin Ke did not move, and his expression was as calm as water. He even wanted to laugh. And Tower, Feudal and others were a little anxious, but Lin Ke signaled them not to act rashly, so they could only sit in their seats and say nothing. "You misunderstood Master Lin Ke." The butler Feudal sighed and stood up. "Judging from the performance in the past few minutes, Master Delin is really far inferior to Lin Ke. However, as a member of the Deep Blue family's butler team, he must be responsible for Master Delin." So he bowed to Lin Ke and said, "The main purpose of our visit this time is to celebrate your birthday and kindly remind the Azanan family about the debt. In addition, we also learned about Viscount Azanan's movements from your family, and it has nothing to do with us. As for the debt collection in advance, it is completely false." TSK. The main purpose is to celebrate the birthday and to remind you of the debt, and everything else is completely false. This butler really knows the art of speaking. Lin Ke smiled, not looking at the child in front of him with white powder on his face, but replied to Butler Feudal, I sincerely welcome your arrival, and hope that the glory of Deep Blue will always shine on the kingdom of Gila. May the name of Azanan resound throughout the kingdom of Gila. Butler Feudal bowed again and replied lightly, and Ellen in front of Lin Ke was even more angry, because he was ignored. Country bumpkin, I want to have a night duel with you. The child is angry. Lin Ke didn't care, but his face sank. Anyone who is always called a country bumpkin would get angry. Master, that's inappropriate. Feudal beside him sighed inwardly, but hurriedly stopped him. Who knew that Delin became even angrier? I want to show this country bumpkin how powerful my water flow control bloodline is. I'm a first level knight. Isn't the meaning of Azanan a torrent? Water flow control bloodline. Lin Ke was surprised that this person said the bloodline directly. You know that bloodline is a secret, and the original meaning of Azanan is torrent. His father Garo should have enlightened the bloodline related to torrent. Seeing Lin Ke's look, Delin laughed. Haha, country bumpkin, you don't know? Bloodline is not a secret decades ago. Only by letting your mentor know your bloodline can you better tailor your career. Only country bumpkins will keep their bloodline like a miser. Ha ha ha. So that's it. Is it the update of knowledge and concepts? However, Lin Ke still felt that as a secret, bloodline should not be known by too many people. Of course, some important information can be revealed when necessary. Lin Ke still smiled. Mr. Delin, I'm a scholar. Are you sure you want to duel with a scholar? It's not that. Scholars are strong, but in the early stage, facing close combat like knights, scholars are generally at a disadvantage. Scholar. You are a weak scholar. Ha ha ha, Uncle Feudal. Listen, this guy is a ridiculous scholar. Delin laughed, but before he finished laughing, Feudal walked up with an expressionless face and covered his mouth unreasonably, saying that scholars are weak. If Delin's words were spread, not to mention what other professionals would think, the Deep Blue family would not let him go. You have to know that the Deep Blue family has many powerful professionals who follow the scholar route, and many of them are as powerful as the Deep Blue Grand Duke. I don't know what's wrong with Delin today. Is it because he came to the countryside that his true nature is exposed? Butler Feudal glanced at Delin. When Delin's mouth was covered, his eyes rolled, and he also reacted. After all, he is not stupid. Just thinking that Lin Ke is a scholar, the pride in his eyes can't be wiped away. He pulled Feudal's hand away and said, HMPH, I don't think you dare to duel with me. I'll spare you this time. TSK, how could the wise and powerful Deep Blue Grand Duke have such a mentally retarded descendant? Lin Ke smiled and shook his head. However, at this moment, thunder roared outside the window. Lin Ke, compete with him. Aofu's voice. At the same time, Aofu, wearing the black and red clothes of the Azan family, flew directly in from the window, with electric light wandering on his body. Strong. Feudal's pupils shrank, and he remembered the news he heard on the road. That is, there is a person above level 15 in the Azan family. Now it seems that, feeling the pressure of Aofu, Feudal guessed that this old man is at least above level 18. As soon as AOF came in, he regretted it, because he came with such a big fanfare that everyone in the reception room focused their attention on him. His scalp suddenly numbed, and he felt uncomfortable all over. However, he still faced everyone's gaze, and said to Lin Ke, someone insulted the scholar. You must defend the honor of the scholar. Lin Ke, what? What honor is there for the scholar? It's not like we, scholars, shout glory of the night every day and rush to the front. Aren't we, scholars, very cowardly? But, since teacher AOF asked, Lin Ke also wanted to try fighting. Azanan is too remote, and the guards are all ordinary people, while AOF is too powerful and John is too weak, and he is not even at level 1 now. Therefore, Lin Ke is quite looking forward to this competition. After becoming a level 1 professional, he has not practiced yet. Let's go downstairs. Lin Ke smiled and made a gesture of invitation. Delin snorted and walked out first, followed by the butler and a series of servants in blue clothes. We will win. Aofu looked at Lin Ke, nodded heavily, and rushed out of the window like lightning. Lin Ke, what does your nod mean? Question mark? Lin Ke didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and felt that his teacher was like a child, a little bit immature. Of course, Lin Ke couldn't fail when it came to the honor of the nobility. After all, in the eyes of many people, especially the people of the territory, it didn't matter whether the scholar was weak in the early stage. If he lost, he lost. There was no need to ask why. If his reputation was damaged, it would be inconvenient to do things. And defeating that kid Delin might allow his dominance and influence to reach a high level. After all, the one he defeated was the heir of the Deep Blue family. Little Lin Ke, why don't we duel? Feudal was a little worried. Although Lin Ke had done a lot and was very smart, he would always be a child in her eyes. From the previous incidents, it can be seen that Feudal is actually like a little girl. She often only thinks of escaping and crying when encountering things. She will only face them when she can no longer escape. Have you decided, Lin Ke? Madame and Tower also asked with a frown. I will soon become a level 2 scholar. Lin Ke motioned the two to rest assured. Level 2 scholar. So soon? Exclamation mark. Feudal had no idea, but Tower looked at Lin Ke deeply. Several people quickly went downstairs and came to the lawn not far from the castle gate. That Delin was already waiting for Lin Ke. I saw Delin holding a thin sword in his right hand and pointing it at the ground, with his left hand behind his back and his body trying to stand up straight. I don't know what the moves are, but this posture does have some of the momentum of a noble duel. Lin Ke stood casually 20 meters away and made a gentlemanly gesture of invitation. Let's start. By the way, where is your mount? Lin Ke looked around and didn't see any mount. No need. Delin snorted uncomfortably, then rushed over with a sword in hand, his two short legs moving very fast, sand and stones flying along the way. It seems that Delin's physical fitness is indeed good, and this speed seems faster than that of a normal adult man in his previous life. Level 1 Knight. Lin Ke did not have any weapons in his hands, but he boiled the magic power in his body and recalled the construction methods of various magic skills in his mind. He could not use any level 1 magic, but he could use 3 or 4 magic tricks. Ha. Delin in front approached quickly and let out a slightly milky roar. However, at this moment, Lin Ke pointed at Delin's feet and magic power spurted out of his body, smoothing. This is a small skill derived from friction. You must know that when people walk, run, etc., they need to generate friction with the ground, and the smoothing technique is a magic trick to reduce friction. So, Delin, who was rushing over, immediately fell forward, face down. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.